Right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, I think we've got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 401, Black Tech Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. No docket today. Just wanted to do a follow-up to what discussion we had yesterday about entry-level IT jobs and strategies for studying and things of that nature. This was left off of the docket. We probably should have got around to it. And I also want to get into, a couple other things. So that being said, if you want to get onto the panel as well, there will be a link in the description. Actually, a link in the chat, I should say. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you. All right. All right, let me go through the chat just so I can acknowledge people until someone else gets on the panel. Sister George, good morning to you. Thaiko, thank you for the confirmation and what's going on with you. Malik Lee, peace to you. Smooth Vision Media, peace to you as well. Terrence Forrest Jr., good morning to you. Complex, the email has been sent. All right, let me get back to it. So we had a great panel yesterday about Black Tech Talk, and this part of the discussion was left out. How to deal with IT recruiters, right? So how to deal with contract work. This is important because a lot of IT work is contract work, which is why there's so many positions open. These are not always full-time positions. They're actually contract positions. And what does it mean by contract? Contract means that you are not a full-time employee of an organization. You are there at will, and you are giving a certain amount of time to fulfill a statement of work that has been generated. So in this case, desktop support people, help desk people tend to have high turnover rates. So bringing them on fully in a full-time role, in the FTE, what we call it, doesn't always make a whole lot of sense unless they have something tangible that they're going to bring to the table, and an organization actually needs that. So it's not uncommon that a help desk person, a desktop support person would be on contract. And contract just means that you are not going to reap the benefits of the organization that they have to offer. One of the organizations that I worked at, almost 90% of the people there were on contract. Only 10% of staff were actually FTEs with the organization itself, because they started with the organization. But as the organization started to grow, they decided not to hire all of these people because they only need it for a certain amount of project work. Sometimes projects can be 3 months, sometimes projects can be 6, 9, 12 months, or even 3 years. So it's not uncommon that a contract can go a year or less, or 2 years at best. Usually with desktop and help desk people, they tend to have a high turnover rate because the statement of work has been fulfilled. There's no real reason for them to stick around. They got the skills that they needed from the recruit from the technician side, and from the organization side. They've already exhausted their best, their benefits of that contractor. And so let me bring complex in. And so because of that, it becomes a lot more lucrative now to actually do contract work, because you get paid more, because the organization doesn't have to pay for your vacation. They don't have to pay for your healthcare benefits. They don't have to pay for any other expenses, so to speak. You're basically untethered from the organization from an HR standpoint. So HR benefits and things of that nature, you're not really tied in with that. So it's not necessary for them to offer you anything. So therefore your wages per hour or your salary could be substantially higher. Usually you're getting paid per hour. That's usually how they bill it out. And they bill it out per weeks, right? So let's say you have a contract that's 6 months, right? 52 weeks in the year, you have a 6-month contract. They may have only signed you up for 28 weeks. That's the extent of it. And then after that, the benefit of having you as a contractor kind of loses its value. And so contract work has become popular in the IT field because organizations get what they want out of it, and the employee or the resource actually benefits a lot. This is great in the beginning because you get more opportunities thrown at you in a shorter amount of time. So let's say you had a 3-month contract as a desktop person or a help desk person, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so you work for that 3 months, and then another contract comes your way. This is always constant. They're always looking to throw. There's always new contracts being spun up, right? You get a 3-month contract, and then that expires, and whether they bring you on or not full time is up to them. They decide that they don't really need you. They just needed somebody to come on to backfill because someone went on maternity leave or they were overloaded with work, so they wanted to, delegate some of the work to another employee such as yourself, and then you can backfill for them. So they're leveraging your capital, your human capital. And so that's why contract work has become so popular in the IT industry as opposed to other industries. No vacation time that they have to pay for you. If you miss a day's work, then what happens here is you also don't get paid. So there's an incentive for you to come to work every single day. And so they're maximizing their labor by moving to a contractor or LTE, limited time employee, or limited term employee.
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
Yo, what's up, dude?
Nothing much, man. Thought I'd drop in for a minute. Might be heading out to the track again later, so.
Okay.
But no, see, we're getting it in the morning. So, just to follow up on what you're saying, because I'm on the help desk support side right now. Mm-hmm. And then at one time I was on the recruiting side, in HR. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of, even today, they offer jobs that really aren't, by and large contract, but all the kind of ancillary incentives that they offer along with it kind of makes it seem like it's like a regular full-time job, because even in a lot of contract positions, they'll have third-party vendors that may facilitate, arranging like health insurance coverage for you.
Because they have to.
Huh?
They have to offer it. They can't not offer it. It's
Right.
law for them not to offer it.
Right, and that's what I mean. It's like even if it's contract, you got some places that really try to like dress it up to make it look or have the feel of a like a regular full-time salary position. So, there's always things to consider with regards to that as well. Like, okay, well, what else comes along with that you could tap into? If I am going to spend time, on a contract position that may only last me 12 months, 24 months or something like that, what's the most I can get out of it for what I'm going to be putting into it?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, that's the first thing. But, also speaking more to your point here, Mike, basically contract work, it does, so everything has its pros and cons, right? But what contract work, what it does enable you to do is be extremely flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You can do more in a shorter amount of time, like in the given space of like a contract. There could be a lot of things that you can say that you did in the short amount of time that you worked there. Because when you do contract work, they're gonna try to get everything like they can get out of you, right? So you could just put that on the resume. So contract work it shows that you're flexible. It shows it shows that you can work under different work environments. Like let's just say you had one job and it was remote, so you worked from home, right? And then you had another job where maybe you had to commute 20 miles a day, right? And with both jobs, you performed at the top. It really didn't matter if you were at home or you were in the office, right? It's those types of things that honestly that recruiters look at.
Yeah, definitely. And not just recruiters, but other talent acquisition
Headhunters.
well, not the headhunters, but the people who are involved in the talent acquisition inside major organizations. They have their own separate way.
Oh, you mean like that, like the hiring managers and stuff?
Well, they're not hiring managers. They're people who actually who specialize in seeking out talent within an organization. So, say for example, Bank of America is so large; they have 100,000 employees. If I remember.
Oh, you're talking about like an internal recruiter.
Yeah, these are the internal people who design out resources. They design resources. Human resources. They're involved in the cultivating of different sort of profiles and whatnot. So they collect a whole lot of resumes and they kind of build out what it is that they think is going to be viable for the organization.
Yeah, I had to actually write out requisitions and stuff too. Yeah. But the people that you were just referencing, they were the ones who basically created the requisition and stipulate what the requirements are. I just write it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They put the wording together correctly. So
that it meets OSHA and employment regulations and all that stuff.
Yep. And so we were looking at these recruiter emails yesterday. We looked at about 3 or 4 of them. And what I was trying to demonstrate was that in some areas you're actually going to benefit greatly if you read the fine details and you align yourself up with some of these with the contract work. I think what happens in these spaces is that everybody wants to go work for Google or Facebook or Microsoft, and it's like that may not be the best frame of thought to have when you want to get into IT. Yeah. Getting a couple of contracts under your belt for a couple of years is very beneficial and very lucrative, especially if you're young and you don't have kids. Well, contracts are mostly designed for childless people because
they really are.
Yeah, you're not really beholden to maintaining a family and stuff like that. And so contracts tend to be great for millennials because millennials are very mobile, right? They tend to move around a bit and don't stick around a lot at different organizations, and so that becomes some of the drivers for it. Now, what it also does is it allows you to touch as many pieces of technology in many different organizations in a short amount of time. And so that's actually not just good for the next employer, but actually good for you because you're absorbing a lot of interactions with different levels of technology. You know, the place I used to work at before, they all use Microsoft Surface books. They don't even use like Lenovo's or anything like that. They use Microsoft Surface tablets. So, and this is a healthcare organization. And then, you know, the other place that I used to work at, they use Macs. They had no real way of centrally managing these Macs, but they used them. That was just the sort of wild west sort of approach that they had, where they couldn't control. They couldn't control the user's behavior because it was no visibility.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jamf is actually the tool that people use now to manage Macs, because Macs don't typically snap into Active Directory from a Microsoft standpoint, because they're not Windows-based computers.
They're not Windows-based, right?
Yeah, and so it's hard to manage. And Apple didn't design anything in accordance to that. Randy Woman asked the question, why? What does contractual work have to do with you raising the family as long as you can get the work done? The reason why it matters, Randy Woman, is because they can cut your contract at any given time. You can be there on Friday, and by Friday afternoon, they can say, hey, you know, we don't have enough money.
We actually don't need you.
Well, not just that we don't need you, but we overspent our budget.
We overspent, right.
What happens here in IT recruiting or IT contract work is that the labor of that contractor is bundled into the IT budget. So if IT has a budget of $2 million and they spent already $1 million on computers and technologies, the other $1 million is left for labor. Well, guess who gets most of that budget? The people,
staff, the employees.
Yeah, they're going to get all the benefits. They're going to get all that salary. You're left with, let's say they only have $80,000 left, but the contract stipulates $100,000. Well, guess what? Those last 3 months, you may not be on board. So they may have to cut you early.
And that's really not, in that type of work or employment environment, it's not stable, you see. However, for someone who's more mobile, and we're speaking more like to millennials,
what is going on?
The heck was that? Mainly because mostly millennials are childless, you know, and they don't have like properties or own vehicles really. So being very mobile, you know, especially again, you know, a lot of contract positions are remote.
Right.
You know, they're remote. So it frees you up to kind of work from wherever you feel most comfortable working. You know, and and in that sense, you have way less like overhead. So you can maximize more on that contract. And you know, if they end up cutting it too much short, okay, you know, I've banked, you know, 30 grand of it.
Yeah, that happens a lot, and this happens a lot with millennials, is that they don't save their money. They don't save their money. They spend all that money, and they, you know, one day they wake up and they get a phone call saying, "Don't come into the office. You know, your work here is done." Random Woman asks again, well, then that means you really don't have to be fully obligated to them either, right? At Mike V. No, You actually do. If you read, depending on what kind of contract you sign,
Yep.
they may say, yeah, you need to show up 5 days a week, no matter what. Like, for example, when I was doing contract work before, everybody else didn't, got to work from home on Christmas week or something like that. But I was obligated to coming into the office, even though nobody else was there, because that's just the way the rules were written. And I was in the office alone. I didn't have a problem with it, but I had to drive into the office with nobody else being there other than me and the janitors. But that's the sort of stipulations that come inside some of these contracts. We got Gabe A on the panel, man.
Hey, what's good?
Yo, what's
Can you
good?
hear me?
What's going on?
It's good. We can hear you.
Hey, how's it going?
Chill.
Good, man. Good.
Mm-hmm. You got anything you want to add to this, Gabe?
Kind of mainly towards the title about dealing with the recruiters and everything, the IT recruiters. I don't know. I just feel like, I think you heard my spill on it before.
Yeah, we did.
Whole idea of not dealing with them. So that's my major thing, because you can really cut out that middleman and really maximize your earning potential and save a lot of headache with the back and forth with not dealing with those individuals, but just rather dealing with an internal organizational HR recruiter or directly with a hiring manager. So yeah, that's the majority of what I have to say initially on it. Yep.
Okay. Judge Zilla, the Beast, says contract work is great if you like to work from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. He actually has a very good point. I've known people to take on these graveyard shift sort of contracts, man, and they get paid very well, because graveyard shift always gets paid very well because it's no one else wants to do it. And a lot of these guys were sitting around playing League of Legends at night and not really doing anything. So he has a point that that sort of contract work is out there. And again, this is for childless guys. I've seen guys, I've been around guys who have had families and had to work that graveyard shift, and they are miserable. They're missing their family. They're not very happy with the role. It's at night. They're lonely. Nobody else is around. They don't have anybody to talk to. It's not for everybody. And so that's why contract work like that is available, and that's why it pays so much more. I've known people who have made lots of money off of that. Young people. They get in, they do it for about 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is that the contract stipulates, and then they're gone, and they go move on to something else because they have a lot of experience under their belt managing things in a non-supervisory state, and then that leverage them, to their next role. And sometimes those people end up being senior analysts or something else in their next role in the day shift role. So,
and there's also those project-based positions where it's about like completing goals via via timeline. So it's really kind of like you orient your time in such a way where you can be most productive. So it's not even like a clock in, clock out, 9 to 5 sort of thing, but it's like, okay, by next Friday, this needs to be done. So
I don't know if you. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, because some contract positions really don't have a time stipulation on it per se, and this is all kind of based on what you negotiate.
Oh, you mean the open end?
Yeah. Where it's basically like it's task oriented. So, this needs to be completed by this time.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're going to see an explosion of contracts in 2020. Everybody needs to get off of Windows 7 because Windows 7 is EOL at this point. A lot of companies are stuck on Windows 7 right now. They can't get off because they don't have enough human resources, desktop support people and stuff like that to actually help them get off and mitigate that. And so, this becomes a problem. And I know a lot of the airline industry, American Airlines, Delta, JetBlue, they all use the same sort of systems. If you go to an airport and you look at the departures and arrivals and things like that, and the screens in the back of an airline agency, Delta, JetBlue, Virgin, all those systems are pretty much running on the same platform. Windows 7 image, embedded or not, especially the embedded systems, those things have to come off because they're vulnerable to they have a lot of vulnerabilities in them that can't be patched at this point. They're way past the EOL. They just be taken off. Warranties almost going to come to expiration at some point. So it's just the answer of it's just a matter of making yourself available. I can't stress enough, man. Do this stuff while you don't have children, and just knock it all out, man. Because when you have a family, this is an important point. When you have a family, you can't bank on feeding your family on contract work because anything can happen, and then you're out of work for 6 months or even 3 months or something like that. And if you haven't accrued enough, and if she's not working, the wife is not working, that becomes a problem.
That's a real problem.
I know one thing that I've experienced with contract work is that it definitely does get old after a while. You just get tired of, being treated. Well, I don't know in the specific environments that I was in, it kind of treats you as like a second-class citizen within the organization because you're kind of like the hired mercenary with a better skill set than them because that's the reason why you're there pretty much, right? It's because the internal resource capabilities aren't there within the organization. So they put you in the middle of lesser skilled individuals who kind of where you don't necessarily have to tout around that, but they kind of get that sense and that feel that, hey,
they know why you're there. Right. But like they can have certain types of animosity or whatever, or sometimes they'll try to pick your brain and see what you know so that they could kind of make a case for you not being there anymore. Exactly.
It's kind of it gets old, man. It definitely I've done three back-to-back contract roles, and it's like this continual thing with the internal staff. So not only I guess from a financial perspective and availability perspective, but even a social perspective within that organization can be something that gets old after a while for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good point. The political aspect of it. The political aspect of it can be a problem. But contract work isn't just about IT as well. I think Complex has done contract work for Bird, Line, something like that in the past. Uber, contract work. Contract work, it's all pretty much the same all the way around. The only problem is in IT is that they don't allow you to unionize. They hate unions, or most organizations would never allow the IT subgroup to actually unionize. That would be a disaster for them, because then they would have to actually fight with these people. Because IT holds the keys to the kingdom, and if these guys unionize, if these people unionize, you're dealing with a deep state at that point.
Mike, it's interesting too, man. When I worked for Bird, so I worked for them in two different contract environments. I worked for them first through a contractor. So I was hired on, like I was from the contractor, I was actually paid salary.
Yeah.
Right. That was the first arrangement that I had with them.
Guaranteed the money up front.
Yeah. I had an hourly, benefits, all that, right? And then that contract ended with them, and then Bird just snatched me up and gave me a contract directly. Yeah, that's how I worked. So I had a hourly position through a contractor that had an arrangement with Bird, and then I contracted directly with them. Pros and cons to both.
Let me answer JBA Mega Montana's question. How would you handle healthcare coverage when talking to a recruiter? So healthcare coverage, they have to offer you the bare minimum. One of the contracts that I worked on before, they offered me telehealth, basically teledoc, and that was more than sufficient for meeting the bare minimum of healthcare coverage. For those who don't understand the whole ACA and Affordable Care Act policies, that's one of the stipulations that they have to offer you contractors some form of coverage, right? You can't just have contractors just working and exploiting them without having them some form.
Without them, being covered in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and now the discussion that they're having is how many hours can a contractor have, or how many days can a contractor have to take off while still getting paid? So that's on the docket right now in most states, most blue states, for that matter.
Wait, how many days? So like if I go down sick,
yeah, it still be covered, right?
It still be covered. Okay.
Right. If you need to take a vacation day or what they call a personal business day, PBA, then can you still be covered on that day? Because at that point you're just exploiting the resource at that point. And so that's in most courts. I know here in Massachusetts that was on the docket last year. So I'm not sure where they are right now. I think it got postponed, but they're talking about maybe offering every quarter, every season, an allotment of 8 hours. So if you worked on a year contract, then you would get 24 hours of paid vacation time.
So basically 4 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
mandated. Okay.
Yep.
That's how some of my contracts are set up, is that you accrued it as you worked particular hours. So it was that 24 hours every, I think it was every month or so, or you had something like that.
Every month? That's a lot.
Let me think.
Yeah,
maybe my numbers are wrong. No.
Wait, a month?
Wait. I'm sorry. Pardon me. It wasn't a month.
Damn, where were you working, bro?
No. I think it was actually 24 hours a year after every year of work. So I got 3 days a year of time, but no holidays, no anything, no healthcare, no 401k matching, nothing. So yeah, it was 24 hours for every year.
Yeah. That's what they're talking about, forcing on to these organizations. Because what happens here is somebody may need to take a maternity leave, while they're on contract. That's unrealistic to expect them to take to not get paid while in a family emergency, right? Or family responsibility. That's why I said before that contract work is for childless people. That's why you can't really have a married person or a person who's expecting to be on contract. It's not feasible. And so that's why the discussions are coming out now that maybe we should rethink this whole entire thing. They're 20 years too late, but I guess it's better late than never.
Yeah, and I would even say another kind of dimension to it is that contract work, it can be, people can, I guess hiring managers and organizations can think of contractors as kind of like people they can't keep a hold of. There are some people that I know who are literally like career contractors. This is not bad, but these individuals are pretty kind of known to come in, handle business, and dip type of thing. Where if you're looking at establishing a career with the organization to kind of stay there, they might look over you if they've seen that you are a career contractor. So there's nothing wrong with either one, right? You might want to more establish your name with the organization, or you want to kind of do your own thing and get out there. But I think that that's a good decision to make for anyone who is looking at starting that contracting type of life. Do you want to do this as a career, or are you looking at eventually stopping at an organization and really kind of building your foundation there? Really good considerations for both. So
yeah. So how to deal with IT recruiters? So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of this whole entire live stream. You don't go to an IT recruiter expecting them to fix your resume or hook you up No, IT recruiters have a set amount of recs, available to them, and they need somebody who's a almost 1-for-1 match on a rec. Sometimes you may not get a 1-for-1 match, but you get something pretty damn close. So an IT recruiter is looking at thousands of resumes, probably hundreds of resumes in a week, and they don't have a whole lot of time to look at fixing your resume and making sure that it's compatible with the requirements and responsibilities of a rec. And so because of that, they may reach out to you multiple times for different roles, but the roles may not be for you. You may not be, okay, I'm not looking for desktop support. I work in IT, but I'm not looking for desktop support. I'm looking for to be a security engineer or something like that. Okay, fine. Well, you tell the recruiter, you let me know when you got some security roles available, and then we can talk. Most of my recruiters that I deal with, even though I don't need them right now, I always hit them up. I actually just got the mail early this morning, and one of my other recruiters that I haven't spoken to in a while sent me a Christmas card, an actual personal Christmas card. So that's the sort of rapport that you're trying to build, that when a exclusive rec comes out, the first person they're going to look to, they're going to call Mike V and say, hey, I got this new role coming down. Facebook is looking for a security engineer. It's going to go live in January. What's your thoughts on this? What's the pay? Let me know what it is you're trying to do. So I got 6 weeks to really figure this out before the rec even goes live, because they've already had a conversation with whatever organization it is, with Facebook, Google, or whatever. And so now I have a leg up because I have a good rapport with that recruiter. And even I have recruiters go from one agency to another, and they still reach back to me and say, hey, I'm over here at Robert Half, or I'm at this organization, let me know if you decide to go back on the market. I got some recs on the table, coming down the pike pretty soon. And so they're having these conversations with different organizations that you may not have access to. Okay, I know some startups. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so being on that side of the game, mm-hmm. where I knew that I needed to start sourcing for candidates, because in 3 months, the jobs that I was going to be recruiting for. So, when you look at how the chain of it all works, mm-hmm. There's a budget that's put together, right, for that position. Okay, so they put the request in and say, okay, hey, we need a software engineer. Mm-hmm. So human resources has to okay it. They have to look and say, okay, do we have the budget to bring this person in at this pay? And this is what the recruiter's saying, okay, well, look, in order for us to bring the person in, we need to offer it at this, at the salary rate. Mm-hmm. So they look and see, do we have the money to pay it? Mm-hmm. Right? All right, go get them. So they put the rec together, but they knew ahead of time they were going to need this person. So everything is put together and everything starts 3 months before you actually start actively recruiting. So there's going to be people that you're going to have in mind prior to you even recruiting. And that's what you're referencing. When you start putting the feelers out there before the rec even goes live, you already want to have candidates lined up, ready to go.
Yep. Very good point. Very good point. Right. And so you have this good rapport with these recruiters. I take my recruiters out for lunch sometimes if I'm in the area. Hey, if you're available, let me know. Take you down. We'll go down and get a beer or something like that. Making good relationships like that, good bonds and stuff like that. People remember that. And because it's in your best interest as well as the recruiter's best interest. Recruiter doesn't get, you can't get paid, or the recruiter doesn't get paid until you get paid. So once the John Hancock is on the dotted line, man, things don't work until that's completed. So build group rapports. Don't have these expectations that a recruiter is going to rewrite your resume. He's going to do it for you. You know, he had this, he told me this or she told me that, you know, they sold me a dream. That's not the deal. And any recruiter that's doing that usually gets outed pretty quickly. They usually don't have a long tenure. They usually have a short tenure in the role that they're involved in. I have been burned by recruiters before, but not to the extent where I just kind of write them off. I've had a recruiter offer me a help desk role, and I'm like, dude, I'm a security person. Why would I work that? You know, I wouldn't even qualify for that role. Like, what exactly are you trying to do here? You sold me or you sent me a contract, but at the same time, it's not applicable to me. So you do get things like that, and that's fine. Usually what I do is I tell the recruiter, I said, hey, this is not the role for me, but I do know a guy named Maddox 12, you know, he's looking, you know, to get to a server engineer's role or a server architect's role, something like that, data center role. Hey, you know, hit this guy up, let him know that I sent you. And what happens here is if Maddox 12 was to get that role, then what happens here is I end up getting compensated as well. So we all win at the end of the day. Recruiter wins, Maddox wins, and I win. Because we keep in that network, we're building a network out of these sort of customary relations. Yeah, data center work is very lucrative, man. I mean, yeah, you're in this isolated facility all day long, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So you're never really just sitting around doing nothing. I remember working in the data center. My ears were ringing, but I had a great time in there. There's no windows in the data center, just for some of you who don't really realize. You're kind of in this, Gitmo style technology center. But yeah, link is in the chat if anybody wants to get on and have some questions.
Sorry about that, Mike. I was muted for a second.
No, that's fine.
You know, and I like what you were saying about also just staying in contact, because that was also something I didn't get to mention.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the last thing we were talking about this type of stuff. You know, recruiters are a resource. I get what Gabe is saying. You know, you always want to have an in. You know, you always want to, like, the staff recruiter or the recruiting coordinator. You know, if you know the person inside the human resources at the company who serves one of those roles, that's always best. I get it, what Gabe is saying. At the same time, regular recruiters have a lot of requisitions. So they may have multiple jobs that you qualify for. So they still are a rich resource for jobs. I wouldn't exactly throw them in the dustbin, but I would say that, yeah, what's best is knowing who, like, the recruiting coordinator or the recruiter is that is on staff at the company. I do agree with that. And the other point is with that, you know, having a network of recruiters that you are in communication with, you know, even if it's just a hey, a hello, or hell, what Mike was saying, like, yo, you know, y'all link up for lunch or something like that. Like I said, that they're a resource. You always have access to jobs if you got access to recruiters.
Right. I actually went out. This is actually a very good time to bring this up. I happened to go to the Celtics game last week. And one of the old recruiters that I had a good rapport with actually invited me to the game. And we were courtside. So they spent their money on these tickets. I don't even work for this guy anymore. I had long moved on. But because we talk about basketball so much in tech, he was like, the first thing that came to his mind was, yeah, Mike, hit Mike V up. He texted me and said, hey, are you in town? Let me know. I'm down here. I got extra tickets. I can put your name on the will call and I can get you in. Think I'm gonna turn that down? Hell no.
Hell no.
No. So I'm chilling. We're chilling. We're talking tech. We're vibing with other people on the team and whatnot. I mean, being introduced to new people. Met a new brother from New York, who's a part of NISBE as well. And now we have a broader network. And now everybody knows my face. So I show up at certain events and like, hey, that's that guy that we went to the game with. So recruiting and whatnot is is this new sort of social networking that hasn't been really tapped into, that should be tapped into for Black people, because Black people are what we call considered network poor. They lack a broader network, in the same way that most non-Black people do have, such as white people. They tend to have a very broad network because a lot of the opportunities that come down their pike is usually things that they don't apply for, is by word of mouth.
Well, what's that saying? They say your network is your net worth.
Yep. Yeah, so you don't want to mess up that sort of relationship that you can have with a recruiter. So leverage the recruiter as an opportunity to get into other lines of business. That's how someone had contacted me earlier this year about a blockchain developer's role, because somebody else had referred me to them, and that's how that works. Was I going to take the role? I couldn't take that role without actually having that Java background. I couldn't see myself doing it. But the fact that my name was mentioned, that goes to that goes in within saying that I had such a good rapport with this other person that they actually recommended me to them. Yeah, Davidson is right in the chat. It says, I say the 9 to 5 is gone forever. Learn to be an IT contractor and work for self, work for investments. Yeah, I agree with that. Most of the people I know in IT are contractors. Very few of them actually are FTEs. I think we get caught up with the FTE part just too much. Everybody wants to be within the organizational chart of a big organization, and they're very title driven. Black people are very title driven because they're status driven, especially Black women. I'm a senior of this, director of that, manager of this, lead person that. Those are just titles within an organization. You're not really one, you're not driving the technology, and number two, the organization is going to float without you. So you might be impressing people on LinkedIn, and you might be, impressing a lesser man. But for us, man, at least for myself, I'm not really moved by that. So I might be a contractor, but I'm doing more lucrative and beneficial work than you are. Rainy Woman says, building rapport and establishing solid relationships are very important. You must see the value in bringing value as a person, not just as a worker or skillsman. See, I think there's a bit of a conundrum with contractors, and I think Gabe was hitting on this really well. that the politics aspect is that how they treat you. And the way they treat contractors, sometimes they look down on them. You're not really a part of us, you know, because they're very fraternity driven in some of these organizations, especially IT. IT is a fraternity within itself, especially security, very fraternity like for all intents, but they have their own branding and everything else that goes with it. So I say all that to say this, that the politics aspect does affect. You must see the value in bringing value as a person. Yeah, the politics of today, especially when it comes to Black people in predominantly white institutions, PWIs, does drive a lot of decision making. Flashwave 2020 says, I wouldn't want to be a contractor for the company I work for. They let those guys go on the drop of a dime. This is the point that I've been trying to make since the beginning of this live stream, that, yeah, if you're childless, then that might be fine, right? You might be able to just go wherever you want to go per contract. The only problem is that when you have a family, that's not the business. You can't just wake up one day and not have a job. There have to be some contingencies in place, and the contingency would be full-time work. But even now with full-time work, people are being dropped like flies. You know, they call them involuntary separation.
I mean, bottom line is there really is no security in jobs per se. Nothing is like safe. Mm-hmm. Even from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you know, I mean, security is what you create to secure yourself ultimately. Mm-hmm. You know, I think we have to get out of this mindset that security could be had in a position that, like you say, Mike, is largely expendable at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really hard to really sort of bank on any sort of, aim for security when what you're using as the basis for that isn't even secure.
Right.
Like you have to create security for yourself.
Right. The gig economy is the new roles now. So
basically, and Mike, you know what? I think I had mentioned this to you. I did want to maybe kind of do like a end of the year hangout. Not to digress, but I wanted to just kind of put it in your head, man. Kind of like fourth industrial based lifestyle strategies or some shit. I don't know, but something that kind of addresses like, you know, maybe like, you know, lifestyle sort of suggestions for what this all means, like what we're talking about even now, like, you know, in a contract work environment type of thing, being very mobile and stuff like that, like, you know what I mean? Because I think people really do kind of get a sense that this is all just kind of like this, like I say, doom and gloom type of thing, but we're like, no, you have all these tools available to you. You know, you can, you know, on your phone, open up a damn Robinhood account and, you know, you take money and buy stock with it. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of building security for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, using fintech solutions and, you know what I mean? That's why I was like, I was going to run that idea by you, man, see what you thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, Judge Zilla, if you want to get on the panel, you're more than welcome to get on. So yeah, I would say that contract work does not have any security at all. That's right. That's the con of being a contractor, right? But you got to make sure you keep in contact with your other recruiters. I don't just have one recruiter. I have probably a dozen that I talk to.
Like a network, yeah.
Yeah, I have like a dozen that I talk to on a weekly or a monthly basis. my go-to, I should say my go-to recruiter, but my most communicative recruiter is actually a woman, man. She hits me up on a regular basis, man. Texting me, let me know, hey, just checking to see how things are going with you. If if you need anything, let me know. I'm going to be in Boston soon. Let's go have a drink, things like that. That's the sort of rapport that I have. And when new things that come on the market, other agencies may not even have it. And she'll hit me up and say, hey, what do you think about this one right here? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Oh, that's a little bit too far for me. I'm not going to drive, 60 miles. That's not the business for me. Well, how far you want to drive? Well, I'm willing to do about maybe 25, 30 miles at best. Okay. Because 60 miles, in Massachusetts.
That's like a long ass way out there.
That's a 2-hour drive. So I'm not.
Yeah.
So I try to stay from a travel standpoint an hour, whether it's on the train or it's by driving. It has to be an hour. If I'm spending more than an hour in my car and I'm not being compensated, this is whack. This is not the business.
But I mean, like in that, seeing like put, on when you're doing it like that, you're not hard up for work, man. It's like you like actually opportunities come at you, and and it's really your option to accept or reject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It even depends on the contract, though, right? If a contract, if I have to drive an hour and a half for the next, let's say, month or so, just on a contract, and they're going to pay me $80, $90, $100 an hour, I might be willing to make that sacrifice, man.
I mean, if it makes sense,
mm-hmm.
If it makes sense, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I might be willing to do that, especially if it's something I haven't done before. Like, let's say, they wanted, my input on, from a security standpoint, they wanted my input on, from Uber or Lyft. Like Lyft was rolling out some new drones, and they wanted me to do some penetration testing or something like that on the drone itself. That's dope. You think I won't drive an hour and a half for that? Hell yeah, I would.
Man, you know what I would do? You know what I mess around, and I would negotiate in a budget to take Uber.
Well,
I'm not bullshitting. I'm dead serious, dude. I'll be like, look, for that, like, dude, you hooked me up with an Uber stipend.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you guys are talking all the right business. I know some people, they get upset over, their recruiters or whatever, but you also have to remember, recruiters are going to go with those who have best resumes for the skill set that they're looking for, fairly immediately. And if you've got a really good skill set, and you've got a lot of in there, and the recruiter has a lot of opportunities around, they're going to constantly stay in contact with you. That's why it's always good to have a couple of recruiters to work with. You just don't stick to one. As far as consulting is concerned, consulting is not permanent placement, as we call it. You're a consultant, so you're kind of like almost an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So, you have to look at it from that perspective. You're getting paid on the 1099, and that's just kind of how that that's kind of how that works. As a full-time employee, and you're looking for a full-time position, your resume has to be written and has to be set in such a way with the minute that a recruiter sees it, depending on what job you're looking for, it jumps out at them from the outset. They can see it immediately. Oh wow, this is what we're looking for. And then they're gonna see to it that you get in. Or other good recruiters, what they'll do is, if you've got a really good skill set, your resume is written properly, or they can help you rewrite your resume, and then they can skill market you.
Yeah.
Look at different jobs that are out there that really fit your type of background, and then send your resume in and see if they get bites. It's called skill marketing. And so there are a lot of different ways to work it. Some guys have some negative views because they've had negative interactions, and a lot of times it's based on folks thinking that they know what they're doing, don't. Sometimes they're a little obstinate with the recruiter that they're working with, and then they don't get a good result, they get angry. It is what it is. You know, I've seen it all. So.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Complex. Oh, and happy belated to Nagone 11. He has now reached 29 again. So
yeah, I'm 25
Yeah.
plus.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, bro.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm 25 plus, so I'm good, man. I'm good.
25 plus. So am I.
He's been around since the Cold War. The Cold War, baby. But I'm out though.
But I'm
I'm
out,
out,
though.
though.
But I'm out, though.
Yeah, to the point. It's funny. To the point that Complex is making, that the conversation we're just having. I would actually take an Airbnb and move closer to that contract. If it was just for like 4-6 weeks, yeah, I'll take the
That's
Airbnb.
what people do. That's what people do. People do that.
Yeah, because I'm getting some experience that I hadn't had before, and I'm probably never going to get that opportunity again. But to put that in my portfolio and say, hey, I help do security testing on drones for a major ride-sharing organization. That's huge. That's huge. No one who's doing that right now.
Right. Well, isn't that the point? I mean, I appreciate the invite here, but because I'm not anywhere near, like I said in the chat, I'm not an IT guy. I'm just IT curious. But isn't that the point, as I've seen with these positions, is to build up your portfolio, right? Is to participate in these things, to build up the portfolio, so that you can eventually become the to use a corollary, a hired gun that becomes the sheriff.
Yep. But the problem is with that, sometimes if if a contractor is in a stronger knowledge position than most of the FTEs at an organization, that becomes very scary for those guys. They build up a lot of resentment. I think Gabe was talking about that before he got off. You know, the political aspect behind that.
Right.
And then for me, the time to leave a contract is when you have mastered the responsibilities to a point where it's almost second nature to you. I think it's time to move on at that point, because it's no longer a challenge, right? You just kind of.
Well, that's that's one of the benefits to the contractor, right? That's one of the pros to the contractor position, right? That how shall I put it? That glass ceiling that tends to impede FTEs, right? Is mitigated by being a contractor, independent contractor, or an independent contractor or a contractor to position, because once you start feeling that, right? Once you start feeling that bump, like, yeah, no, I can do better than this. I can do better than what you're doing. And you have, and not that you just feel that, but you have the empirical evidence behind you that, hey, no, I can, and I can just, it's what engineers do all the time, right? Engineers bounce from one position to another position to another position to another position based on once they start hitting that, once they start feeling that either skill-based ceiling or pay-based ceiling, I'm off to the next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you do for work, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, by profession, I'm a tax preparer, but this year I'm opening up my own business.
Okay.
That's outside of that field. It's a completely different. It's a completely different genre.
Yeah, but you're an IT tax preparer, I guess. IT curious, right?
Yeah, no, I'm curious about it because, again, I feel like, unfortunately, my degree, I feel like I chose kind of the wrong path in accounting and economics, and I feel that way because I didn't go Big Four, and accounting is balancing ledgers, right? So accounting is if-then statements. What's the perfect thing to solve if-then statements? Computers.
Yeah.
It's a plug and play gig, and last couple of years, that industry has been really hit hard uh, with the ability for people to use programs that are available, at least 15 that I know of, to do their taxes for free if they're simple systems.
Now, so are you saying that you might be a victim of automation?
Well, yeah, I'm a furrier, right? I'm a furrier in the Model Ts. The Model Ts are out on the road,
Okay.
right? There's not when the Model T comes, then a whole lot of the people putting fixing wagon wheels and putting shoes on horses, they kind of lost their positions, right?
Right.
Their prominence, but at least the prominence of the position.
Crazy. Crazy. So now you might, well, you say you're gonna start your own business. You won't be getting involved in any sort of recruiting, but let me ask McGowan this question. What are the things that you look for in a candidate when it comes to recruiting? Just off the cuff.
Okay, one of the things that I look for, if I'm just a regular candidate, want to see, first of all, how well they speak. If they're fairly articulate, can kind of get their ideas across. And I'm just talking to them on the phone, got to get an idea of just kind of how they communicate, what kind of communication skills that they have. Just talking with them. Next, I really, if I'm taking a look at that resume, I got to make sure that they have, a strong skill set in the key given area of a job sector that I might have. So, definitely looking to see if they have a overall strong skill set. Now, why do I say that? Let's say I don't have a position for their skill set, but yet their skill set is really strong. Then once again, I can talk about skill marketing. That person is someone that you can then present maybe to a prospective client that you're looking for as someone who's got a really strong skill set in a given area. And that might open up the account and get you a chance to do business with them based on that candidate that you have, who not only has a strong skill set, but could also be a great hire for them as well. So you look to see very strong work skill set. Education, these kind of things are good to have as well. But experience is really of critical importance. Also, from a technology standpoint, what kind of certifications and other kind of license stuff that they have that would speak to their areas of expertise and knowledge. So we want to look at those three basic things, of course. Then, of course, location plays somewhat of a role, but with a lot more virtual work out here today and people being able to work remotely from home offices and so forth, that's becoming less of a factor, but it's still a factor. So where you reside to is important. It's still an important thing. But primarily, overall base skill sets, communication skills, those are very important. Education, important. Important, less important, but still important depending on what level you're at. And some positions might require, a degree or a master's degree, depending on what level and what specific type of job you might be recruiting for. But those are some key things that we want to look at, that I want to look at first, because those skill sets have to jump off the page. So somebody looks at that immediately and says, wow, okay, this is what we'll kind of look for. Wow, let's look at that. Now, one thing I want to also break down, depending on what area field you're in, it's also how your resume is written.
Okay.
If you are, let's say in sales, even technical sales or whatever, the sales process is important. So if you have a well-written resume from sales, especially if you have an objective, and in the objective section says, I'm a highly dedicated sales executive, thoroughly understands the sales process, understanding how to keep, the pipeline filled, following up on calls and consistently closing business at a XYZ type of rate or whatever. You see somebody who has like an opening like that, on their resume, it's immediately going to jump out at somebody who's looking for somebody who may be good in sales, depending, it could be technical sales, whatever. But if they start to explain to you a little bit of the fundamentals of the sales process in that forward, or in that objective, that stands out, and that's going to play a key role in getting interviews, getting bites. Somebody may look at that and say, well, okay, this individual kind of understands the selling process. They understand how to get in contact with potential clients. They understand how to close business potentially. This stands out in the resume just from what I'm reading right off the top. Let's bring this person in. And then they'll look at your skill sets and everything else like that, but they'll look to evaluate you first, depending on how your resume is written. And does it speak directly to what type of position that you're looking for? That's why I always like to say, good candidates tend to have one or two good resumes for themselves. So it's just not one resume they have. It's just two good ones that might fit for maybe some differences in the positions that they may be looking at. So I'll just give you a quick thumbnail sketch on that. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
No, that's actually very good information. I hope people in the chat are taking notes. What should a candidate's expectations be when engaging a recruiter for the first time? Should they have their hopes high? What should the candidate be focusing on when engaging with a recruiter?
I think what a candidate, first of all, should be engaging a recruiter is, first, when you talk to a recruiter, you gotta have to have an idea as to what you're looking to do, where you're looking to go. Are you looking for a position in a specific industry? What specific industry are you looking at? Are you looking at for a position in a specific company? What kind of company you're trying to specifically get into? You have to get a good idea from the recruiter if that individual, and you can really partner up and sit down and really work together to really achieve your objectives. Because what you're really doing with a recruiter in the beginning is you're kind of forming somewhat of a partnership there, because that recruiter is going to benefit by getting you placed, and you're going to benefit by getting placed. So that's got to be a partnership kind of deal. You got to partner up with your recruiter. So the key of it is you want to sit down and look at realistic objectives that you're really trying to achieve, and then go about it in a way that's sensible, that's going to get the result that you're looking for. So you're definitely going to talk to a recruiter about your objectives, where you're really trying to be, and then looking at your resume, your skill sets and so forth, and seeing how realistic that is, and then tailor making that resume in such a way so that really speaks to that opportunity, that company that you're really trying to get into, and then you can move forward from there. But you have to get a good sense, and you and the recruiter have to be able to communicate with each other and talk about exactly where you want to be, and being very realistic. You have to be realistic also about your objectives. Some people come in and are totally unrealistic. And then what happens is recruiters then get very realistic with you about what your real prospects are, and then people get discouraged and they get angry because they're not hearing what they want to hear. They want to hear what they want to hear, but you have to hear the truth and what's really realistic about what you're trying to do. So you have to be realistic about your objectives. You have to be realistic. If you're looking at a position that is going to look for 10 years of experience or so, and you're going to need a certain degree level of training and so forth, you don't have any of this stuff, but yet you think you're really good for the job, you're not being realistic.
Judge Zilla has his right. Go ahead, Judge Zilla.
Well, I was going. Are you more of a recruiter or headhunter, or do you not distinguish between the two?
There's no distinguishing between two. Recruiters, headhunters, they all call them the same thing. There's no difference.
Okay. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is what I'm gathering from you rather is right. Your basic is have realistic expectations for the skills, the experience and skill levels that you've acquired, and your skill sets, and learn a little bit. I think I think Mike actually had a video last night or yesterday. Somebody saying that maybe learn up on the right basic things for resume stuff, learn up on the company for interviews, learn up on the company a little bit, and see what and give your background, but also how that background will be beneficial in whatever is necessary for that position to create to facilitate that position, right? Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, if you have a good skill set and you're working with a recruiter, and that recruiter is really trying to get you into a good position, what that recruiter is going to do along with you is you're going to go over your resume together, and then that recruiter is going to help you reformat that resume to really fit that position that you're really looking for. Reformat it, rewrite it in such a way that it really speaks to that position, and highlighting those major aspects of that job or that position that you might not have very well highlighted in the resume that you might have. That recruiter is going to help you to really refine that process and, really drill your resume down in such a way where it really speaks to that position. And then you'll go forward and really going for that opportunity. But that means you have to be a good candidate for it. You have to have the right skill sets and so forth. The resume may need to be rewritten and reformatted in such a way where it really speaks well to that situation. And most good recruiting firms and good recruiters, it's one of the first things that they're going to be doing with you. Let's take a look at your resume. Let's see how we can fix this thing up.
Yep.
So the Indeed template and tutorial is probably not good enough.
I mean, all that's pretty decent. I mean, that's boilerplate stuff. But when you start to really get lives and get butter laid in the game, you got to tailor make the situation.
So let me kind of give an anecdote of what Nagon's talking about. So, like, for example, what I would do is, in order to get, my candidates interviews, what I do is I'm looking at what the requirements are for the job, and then I'm going to go through all of their work history, and then I'm going to ask them if they ever did these things in their prior positions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite like what it is they did in those prior positions, so that shit just jumps out at the job. And I used to get dudes placed just like that all the time, because you're absolutely right, Nagon. You gotta tailor make the resume for the job. That's going to be the first way, the easiest way to get like the hiring managers like or the recruiter's eye, the internal recruiter's eye, is when everything on the resume matches up with what they're looking for. So all you have to do is just find instances where what you did in previous positions match up with what it is that they're looking for someone to do there. And you just defeated like half the battle. The other half is you knocking the interview out the box.
Well, there's a whole interview preparation you have to have for that.
Yep.
There's a process in this game. So what I want to do is just break down the whole process, because once your resume has been reformatted for that position and it's really set to really speak directly to that opportunity, and we're gonna make, and it might need some minor tweaking, might need some somewhat major, but it might need some minor tweaking, depending on how you look at it. Retweak the resume and so forth. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you, or a good recruiter is going to get you into what's called an interview preparation. And a candidate's going to evaluate you on that, because if you're not available to do an interview prep, I'm going to drop you faster than shit through a goose. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because you're not set to win. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure, because I'm going to have the knowledge of the client. I'm going to have foreknowledge, which you're going to need to know before walking through the door. If you're not open and willing to do interview prep with me, the questions that are going to prepare you to do as well as you can, that means you kind of going in unprepared. Mute yourself in the background there.
Complex.
Complex. Yeah. Just mute him real quick. He's
Right. Well, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So what I was saying was, I'm gonna make sure that you're prepped, because I'm gonna have the inside information. I'm gonna know what they're looking for. I'm gonna know what the hot buttons are in a tech interview, or let's say, because I also do certain level of sales as well. A lot of digital sales people, online media sales people, and that kind of thing. I get involved in that too, because I happen to like sales a lot. So I deal with sales executives, also the technical sales, as far as sales, pre-sales engineers, and this kind of thing. So I do that as well. So at the end of the day, I'm going to understand what they're looking for. I'm going to talk to the manager, okay, or to the AD assistant director, or to the tech lead, or whoever's up there. I'm gonna know what's going on. So I'm gonna have a series of questions that I'm gonna have for the prep. So when I do an interview prep with you, I'm going to make sure we go over those prep questions and you're prepared. So you already know what's coming down before it comes down. All right. So we're taking very little risk as possible. We're going to go in there with as much information as we can. So when we get into that interview process, we pretty much know what's coming down the pike. We kind of have an idea what kind of questions are going to be asked. We will have gone over them already. And so by the time you sit down and are getting ready to do your thing, you've already been through the process already. And so therefore the interview should be much easier for you, much easier. Should be a much better situation, should work more towards your advantage, as opposed to people walking in cold, unprepped, don't know what's going on. Next thing you know, they get their butt kicked up around their ears and didn't know how that happened. Yeah. My job, see to it that doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No. I mean, and I guess I'm posing these positions from a position of somebody who didn't get a BA, right? Who's not university educated, right? Most of us when we were on a university education, we had these subgroups that they would have speakers and they would have people explaining, right? Alumni groups would set up these things to where we'd go through these mock interviews and mock recruiters, and right, for those that in this industry, especially specifically IT, specifically for IT, it's a lot of you can go through and get a lot of certifications, but you may not get access to those mock settings. So that's why I'm asking these questions to, and you broke it down incredibly there, Nago. Thank you.
Well, that's the advantage of dealing with recruiters and good recruiters. They're going to have that. They're going to know what's going on. They're going to have that inside, where somebody who's interviewing cold is not going to have it. And so they may come in and, I'm coming in, I got the interview, I don't know where I need you. Next thing you know, they start asking you inside questions, stuff that you might not have done. Well, I see that you're programming in C and C++, you're doing this, but, give me a little example of kind of your multi-threading experience, and give me kind of how you multi-threading. I haven't really done a lot of that. And then he starts sounding like Ralph Cramden. I'm the chef of the future. I'm the chef of the future. Oh yeah, you the chef of the future. Your ass is out of here, but you out though. So anyway, so it kind of goes like that. I'm being a little bit facetious, but also I'm being very real about that, because these kind of things can easily come up and tear you out the frame. Mm-hmm. And you might not even know that is getting ready to happen. So me, I'm gonna see to it that you're utterly prepared for that. Mm-hmm. That doesn't come up as a surprise, that you know it, and that you're ready before it ever happens.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this, Nagon. How often is it that you see guys go from contract to hire, right? Go straight to FTE?
Well, usually that happens. That happens a lot of times. That happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Because you may have somebody who, and then a lot of times you may have the contractor that doesn't want to go full time because they just like being contractors. But right. I do see it happen a lot there, because they're certain. Because I can tell you right now, along with some of this blockchain stuff, you have people coming in as contractors and they're going to get converted because they're going to really be good on their jobs and they're going to be great at what's going on. And then these guys are going to want them around full time. So that does happen a lot. It happens quite a bit. I would say this goes down a good 50% of the time easily on on many of these given situations. They're constantly looking to convert people. And one of the big things is it's the advantage of consultants when you get into an area that's hot. The consultants know that it's like that, so they like to continue to consult around because they can make, a bit more money doing that. A bit more money. They can, from a cash perspective. And that's kind of what happens. But yeah, but good contractors, many of them are consistently getting hit with permanent placement opportunities. But then you can see a contractor's resume because you can see they do contract. So a lot of these guys are probably not going to want to get converted. But companies try it all the time. But it's something that goes on a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you familiar with corp to corp? Like,
of course.
Okay. Can you touch on that?
Corp to corp. That's where contractor, he has his own company, and and he gets hired, by another company to basically contract, do work for them, and it's one company working for another company. Even though that individual is an individual, he's a contractor, but he's a corporate entity himself, and so there's a corp to corp process, and that's that's dealt with. It has some slight differences in tax treatments and so forth because these are two corporations dealing, but it's still the contractor, the corporation type of relationship. But they're very similar. But yeah, corp to corp, yes sir.
Yeah, I think one of the bad aspects of IT recruitment for Black people is that there's not enough Black IT recruiters. Very few that I've run into.
That's true. You first of all, you don't have a lot of Black people in IT. Period. And the ones who were in IT, a lot of Blacks who were in IT and who have halfway decent positions. These guys they got more work than they can handle. They're all over the place. But you don't have a lot. We don't have a lot in there. That's one of the reasons why we have the Black Brain Trust here, and we're talking a lot about that because we really want to see more Black people get into it. And the industry is wide open. It's wide open. I once again say I want the expectations to be realistic because you're going to have to put in work. If anybody's thinking, who's listening, that you're going to come into this game without putting in work, you're fooling yourself. You're not being realistic. If you want to be realistic, you have to put yourself on a good 24 to 36 month type of time frame, and that means of serious work being put in. No shortcuts. You're looking for a lot of shortcuts, you're in the wrong side of the game. It's not going to work for you. What you're going to do is you're going to go get your certifications. You're going to get as much training as possible, putting in as many hours in as possible, getting as butter laid as you can, and that will work out for you. Now, there's a whole process to how this is done, but just me keeping it as a thumbnail sketch, you have to look at really getting the fundamentals in place first, and that's learning baseline coding, getting your baseline certifications, getting your like people who go for their A1 certifications and their various types of networking type of certs. You want to get all this stuff together, and then these companies will then take a look at you. Then you can get in at the ground floor level and then start to work your way up. And that's how you get in. The name of the game is get through the door.
Yep.
And it's easy to get through it's not as hard as you may think to get through the door. Some basic baseline certifications will get you in, but you got to put the work in to do it. And for these people who are coming and looking for a quick, presto changeo, here it is. No, it's one thing to have the right mindset. Then it's another thing to have the right mind going in and doing the work. So all that works together. So I just want people to be realistic about expectations. All right. That's why Mike, he wants me to read some of these recs I have that are 150K, 200,000. Yeah, that stuff is great. That gets people salivating. But at the end of the day, what does it take to get there? You ain't gonna jump in there overnight. You ain't gonna jump in there in a year. You're not gonna jump in there in 2 years. It ain't gonna happen. If it takes you 3 to 4 to 5 years, no problem, because those jobs are still gonna be there. In fact, the game's even going to get that much wide open. So if you
Mhm.
think, well, it's going to close, it's going to take me too long, and I'm not going to have the opportunity, you're crazy. Most of these jobs that have been open, they've been open recs for 10 years. It's been on with damn near 1 million jobs open in the IT industry for 10 years. Damn near open. That's the reality. That's
Yeah.
where we are in this. And for those who are thinking long term, this is where it is. This is where it's at for you. You have to take a look at what areas you think are best for you that you might think that you might have some interest in, and get into that one area, become an expert in that, and then branch out. As I like to say, branch out from there, because there's going to be a lot more opportunities open up. Mike just said something the other day about he was offered a job at a company to get involved. I think more on the database, maybe programming side or whatever. But yet he's a networking, he's a data security man, but he understands programming. He's got very strong technology skills, and these guys were evaluating him, saying this guy's pretty robust. We think he can scale to. We think we can scale to a whole nother spot. So other opportunities will come your way just because you're very good in one area. People will ultimately think you may be good in other areas, not because they're guessing. It's because they've seen it before, and they know how these people scale. So they're not guessing. They're like, well, we got this guy, we got him. They've all done it, and we're looking at this guy. Wow, he's got some of the unique stuff that we've got here right now. All you got to do is put him into this, let him learn this, and just plug and play. Man, this guy's ready to go. They make these decisions not because they feel like this is a possibility. They've seen it before.
Mhm.
And so therefore they feel they're taking a little risk in that. You follow?
Now, is it often that you have the same candidate come back to you after they finish a contract, or do they kind of move on?
No, like a lot of them come back because if you get them a good contract, they're gonna be like, hey, Eaton's good over here. Let me come on back through. That's what they do. It's just how it is. And they're working with others as well. But you definitely want to keep in contact with these people, because contractors keep the money flowing. You put them on a job, and you've got them now in billable hours. You may be making an extra 25, $30 an hour on these guys. It's just at that top level, but the margins are tight, but they're going to get wide again for some of the industries that are opening up, like blockchain and so forth. So the profit margins are going to get bigger now again. But usually the margins are not that big, so you might be getting an extra 10 or $15 an hour on some of these guys. And you're making a nice income on them, but you're not really making a huge amount. So that means you have to have a lot of consultants on to make a lot of money. But with blockchain and all this stuff, guys will be billing out, paying these blockchain guys $100 an hour. You could be billing out at $200 an hour. You can be making an extra $90 to $100 an hour on these guys.
Yep.
So and these companies got no problem willing to pay that.
Yeah.
So it's money. It's money. Very lucrative business if played right. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jazilla, have a good one, man. Thanks for coming on to the panel. Lord Ace had some questions in the chat. Lord Ace, are you there? Lord Ace, are you there?
I think I hear something
From Lord Ace? I don't know if it's Lord Ace. Lord Ace, are you there?
Yeah, he says he's here, but I don't. Are you muted?
Yeah, unmute your microphone.
I think I kind of hear him, but I don't know if he's talking to his mic.
That's what I mean. I think I can hear something. Man, you might want to try like unplugging your mic and then plugging it back up.
Yeah, put some volume on it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right. Yeah. Basically, I was hearing all the good information, and I'm currently doing desktop support
Okay.
And I've been doing that for 2 years. I got into a IT training program that was. I left college and then got into an IT training program that was 6 months long, and then turned into an internship. Then that I performed on the internship, and it turned into a full time position. And I'm trying to. I want to network with that recruiter guy and just build up my career from the ground up and do what I need to do, you know, as far as certifications and how to uh, communicate. Because actually, it's crazy because I interviewed for a position. They liked my ambition, but then when it came to technical knowledge, it was lacking. And then there's specific questions, like you were saying, that there's like curveball questions that screw you over, you know. And I'm interested in doing that stuff, like mock interviews and you know, the psychological preparation, and then, you know, things like that. Right now I'm 27, and that's what I want to kind of like transition into, you know, higher pay, and because I know it's there, and then just make whatever sacrifice I need to make in order to uh you know um make that happen.
How long have you been in IT for? In desktop?
I would say that was officially my first IT position. Um, yeah.
How long?
So that was like 2.5 2 years, like 2 years going on 2.5.
Have you gotten any certifications?
No.
Okay, so you want to work on your A plus.
All right.
You got to work on that. That should have been done a year ago.
Yeah.
So how you know what recruiters like Nagone, IT recruiters like Nagone look for is how many certifications. You know, what have you done in your duration? Yeah, you've been on desktop support for 2 years, but what else have you done? What are extracurricular things that you've done? Are you a part of any organizations? Are you going to any of these meetups? Do you have any certifications? How many certifications do you have? Those type of things matter, and that's what hiring managers are going to ask. You know, because they're looking at that, and that will also determine how much salary you can negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Nicole might have a different perspective on this as a recruiter, but from an IT manager myself, I can look at that and be like, okay, this person may not be putting in enough work, because the next person that comes along, next candidate that comes along, and they got their A plus, they got their network plus, they got their MCP or something like that, their ITIL, that person, that other candidate is going to get preferential treatment because they put in a lot more work.
Yeah. I was looking at getting my MCP, and it had changed where it's like now like 40. It was one cert, and then it now turned into like 40 options or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, because they fractioned it out because it's different areas of expertise.
Yeah. So yeah, I was looking at the security plus, and because the MCP got broken up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would focus on A plus first. A plus covers a lot of what you do, and so that can speak truth to power on your previous and current responsibilities. But you have to ask yourself, what is it that you see doing in the next 2 to 3 years? Because you've already been in desktop support for 2, so what else do you think you're going to be doing in the next 2 to 3 years?
If I think that the future is two things, and that's cybersecurity and cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could pinpoint it as far as IT goes, is those two things.
Right. So cloud is infrastructure, right? Cybersecurity is an ongoing process of any business. So everyone is going to be cybersecurity compliant at some point. So in my opinion, from my perspective, as someone who's been all over IT and currently reside in cloud security. What I can tell you is that you're gonna have to really step it up. And I'm not just saying you, but anybody else. Gonna have to step it up in terms of skill sets. Cloud is just an environment. Cybersecurity is just the ongoing process of the business. There's going to be a lot more than just cloud and cybersecurity. You got IoT coming on board. You got autonomous vehicles. You got blockchain. You got fintech. 5G technology coming on board. Virtualization is going to be really huge. So there's a lot of other aspects. And coding is going to be another area too of expertise that people are going to be, or skill set that everyone's going to be looking for.
Yeah.
And so you got to take all of these things into consideration that got to come with at least one skill, coding language of familiarity: JavaScript, PowerShell, Bash, SQL. One of those things you got to actually have on there. In terms of cybersecurity, is a little bit more broader now. I focus a lot more on policy than I do on any physical labor. Very, very few times do I get up from my seat and actually do anything other than go to a meeting. I spend a lot of time doing incident response because I'm the only incident response person on board. But the total aspect is that I'm constantly talking to vendors. I'm constantly talking to external people, internal people, talking to C-level people, making sure things are straight for them, because I have to translate a lot of what I'm doing into layman terms for executives who don't understand what it is that we do. So we can, justify a lot of the budget expenditures and things of that nature that we're doing. And so what I'm saying here is people think about cloud and they think about cybersecurity. There's a myriad of things that's going on inside the cloud that, is not something that a desktop person is going to fully comprehend, because they haven't really, if they haven't really acquired those skills necessary to be in the cloud or in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add to that, or complex?
Well, there's a question in the chat, so I didn't know if I'll let Lord H kind of finish his line of questions, and then I'll read the question in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just kind of seeing, is there a way to reach out to you guys or like keep in touch for actual?
Yeah, Rainy Woman in the chat has the email posted. If you look in there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look in the chat, Rainy Woman has posted that. Let me see. What was the question on the complex?
Oh, it says, I think it's Taco Davidson.
Okay.
It says that as Black people, where do we see ourselves in IT for the year 2020 and beyond? What challenges do we see facing us?
Some of the biggest challenges that I see is that it's literacy. People just don't read. Black people are not reading. A lot of people ask, why do we read the articles? Because Black people, for all intents and purposes, a lot of times the Black people just won't read the articles. And so if you're unwilling to read, then what's going to happen is you won't be able to upskill yourself. And so for IT, it's a constant ongoing learning process, right? You're constantly feeding yourself knowledge and you're actually applying it to skills, translating it to skills. And that's going to determine the future of Black people in IT. The problem is that even Microsoft, we read an article a few weeks ago, Microsoft only has 4.4% of its workforce is African-American. 4.4 out of 100,000. So, the problem is that, it's a two-part problem. You have racism in the hiring process, but you also have a demographic of people who are currently behind even that of Africans on the continent. Africans on the continent are moving fast when it comes to information technology. Black people in America lagging behind because they're not upskilling themselves. They're just not partaking in the necessary ventures that involve, social networking and things of that nature. They use Facebook, they use Instagram, but they're not actually driving the technology. They got to actually drive the technology. They're just not there yet. I think that, this is the perfect opportunity to get into the market now. There's a million recs on the table that can't be fulfilled, even with all the H-1B visas capped at 85,000. There's still not a lot of Black people signing up, from what I understand. Maybe the Gone could probably speak to that as well.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
This is Ace again. I just want to say, what about when you spoke on like coding fundamentals? What about Python?
Python is something too. Go ahead, Nicole.
No, that's key, man. Great question. Python, definitely go-to language. Definitely. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's definitely a go-to move for sure. Python, very good to learn. Along with some other key ones like Java, JavaScript, SQL, SQL. Those are key, but Python certainly. And Mike could speak to that. Mike, would you agree?
Yeah, Python is like the #1 language right now in choice for automation.
Okay. And by
Say that again. Your mic is breaking.
all right. Can you hear me
I
now?
think that's a foot. Yeah. Make sure that foot's off your neck.
Yeah, like for automation, you mean automation scripting or automation as far as networks are concerned, like network automation?
All of it. All if you're using a what we call a SOAR, a security orchestration architectural tool, then they most of the times, 9 times out of 10, they use Python. Python is usually the choice because it's just high level.
Okay. So after I get my A+, what cert y'all recommend?
Your mic is breaking. I can't understand what you're saying. Your mic is breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. After I get the A+, what are some higher up certs that y'all recommend?
So you want to get certs that reflect your current responsibilities in your capabilities, right? You don't want to get you don't want to be Oracle certified and you haven't worked with Oracle before. That becomes a problem because now you can't demonstrate that skill set. You have the knowledge, but you can't demonstrate the skill set. So what I would say to that is after A+, the logical step is Network Plus and then CCNA, right? You also have other aspects such as like Server Plus. Server Plus is a lifetime cert, so you don't have to worry about ever renewing it. Once you get it once, you're good for life. Linux is huge. Linux makes up 70 to 80% of the server market, so you want to make sure that you have those skill set, the Linux skill set, so that if you plan on getting into that market of cloud computing and stuff like that, that's going to matter. I think most of Amazon, if not all of it, uses Linux or some variation of Linux. And so you won't be able to get around Amazon Web Services or AWS unless you have a fundamental understanding of Linux itself.
All right, appreciate that. That was really insightful. I know I have more to do, so I just wanted to see where to start, because sometimes it's so vast that it's like, damn, where do I start first?
Well, you have to ask yourself what's your passion, right? For me, my passion has always just been tech itself. So cybersecurity is something I have an undergrad in. I have an undergrad in information security and in several certifications. So cybersecurity was a logical place for me to landing to based on my previous IT experience as a whole. Now, I've shifted to cloud, and plus I have a cybersecurity background, so the two just go hand in hand. now my next transition is going to be blockchain for 2020, right? So beyond cloud, beyond cybersecurity, I'm looking at the digital transformation aspect of the industry, and blockchain is going to be a part of that. So I have to be preparing myself now to be a part of that transition as well for most organizations.
Okay, you mentioned something. You were talking about like relevant skills that are relevant to the job, and what I realized is my company uses Azure. They use Azure and like heavily into Microsoft products.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally like blockchain technology or interested in like the cryptocurrency space, but I didn't know how to what do you even need to do to tool up to get into that, on a either IT or developer side.
Well, so in order for you to upskill like that, it's going to require a lot of reading and a lot of studying of abreast, right? What I like for people to do, or some of my mentees to do, is to make sure they master the skill set that they currently have, the responsibilities that they currently have before they transition on. Having a whole bunch of, if you go, let's say if you went from help desk and then you tried to jump into servers, but you don't really fundamentally understand the desktop aspect of it, the client aspect of it, you can't jump into the host aspect of it because you didn't master the other side. And so I think what happens here is there's too much leapfrogging to different things without actually mastering the one thing. Being a jack of all trades but a spade of none doesn't really help in IT at all. Recruiters don't really like that. Recruiters like people who, like candidates who are really good at Java, really good at C++, really good at Cisco networking or MCSE or Unix or something like that. You're a Unix administrator. That's what you do, right? You're an MCSE. You're a Windows Server guy. That's what you do. So my thing is to try to make sure you master the responsibilities that you have now before you move on to anything else. Not jumping into something just because it's hot right now. Make sure you jump into something that you're going to be passionate about. I'm passionate about cybersecurity, and I've always have been in the last 10 years. And so I'm in this market. I'm in cloud because a lot of companies are going through that digital transformation space, and that's where I come in and I help leverage those transitions. For somebody else, they may say, well, I want to get into cloud because I think that's that's cool. You got to have that passion for it. You got to be able to speak truth to power when it comes to that, because when you're sitting in front of C-level executives and they're saying, and they're asking your input on something, and you're saying, well, I never really looked into it that deeply. That's not gonna fly with them. Maybe Nagol might have a different.
Well, I'm sorry, Mike. I was just doing something here very quickly. Your major point is?
My major point here is transitioning from one role like a desktop support. Got to make sure you master those skills first before you move on to something else.
That's right. As I said, I call it a vertical. You get into one area, you get really strong in there, then you scale to another one. But you got to be masterful in one and then move over to another as you evolve. That's how that works. Trying to be a jack of all trades and a master of none too early out, forget about it. It's going to work against you. And you're going to spin your wheels. What you don't want to, and that's what you don't want to do. What you want to do is you want to get into a key area, become very knowledgeable there, branch out from that, and move, almost kind of like a hub spoke kind of deal. Mm-hmm. Central hub, that's your key, and you spoke out. Man. you get into other things from that. That's how you really want to evolve along that way, and they know that they can, on down the line when you have gotten a lot of skills behind you. But usually you see someone who's very strong in one area, they branch out and they branch across to other into other areas, and that's where a lot of you data architects and stuff like that, they start playing that kind of arena, and they're a lot higher paying jobs for that as you move up the ranks. But like I said, you got to start somewhere, and that's really being rooted heavily in one area first to be expert there and expanding outwards.
Hey, Mike, we have another question.
From where?
It's from Space Cowboy 776.
Okay.
Space Cowboy.
He says, I have a question. What should a person who has no interest in working for a company, but instead building tools, applications for use within IT? Not quite sure. I'm trying to kind of understand what he's asking here.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. Go.
No, I think it sounds like he's like, who, can you really build a skill set? You don't want to work for a company that you just want to start doing projects. Yeah, you can do that. You can be, a consultant and go out there and get there. But you better be damn good at what you're doing if you're gonna, be a consultant and really be able to just to learn a lot and then consult out from there. And usually you get a lot of experience from working for a company, working with someone, being in an environment, and seeing how a lot of things work. And that's because most consultants just don't come out being consultant. They in fact work for a company for a while, get a lot of skills, get a lot of information, get a lot of knowledge underneath their belt, and then they take off from there. Then they go on the road with it. And if you kind of looking to start out without that finishing school of being in the operation, learning how things work, then it may be it might be more difficult for you. You might find it a bit more difficult. Can it be done? Yeah, anything can be done. Is that the best path I would look at? I would say no. But there may be those who may tell. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I heard your mic dropping. Yeah, I agree with going on this. I'll just also add that what you're trying to do is you're trying to be a vendor. You're trying to be a consultant vendor to an organization. That takes a lot of stake, a lot of buy-in from the top, because they have to spend their money, they have to justify what they're doing by spending money on something that you say you're going to develop tools for them. Companies buy brand name. No one ever got fired for buying IBM. So if your stuff is tight, if what you're doing is tight, then yeah, it might work. I know a lot of people who do exactly what you're talking about, but their stuff is pretty top notch. You have big VCs putting money behind what they're doing, millions of dollars. I've seen millennials walk away with $2 million checks. So think about it from that perspective. Make sure your branding is tight. Make sure what you're doing is actually going to work. Companies really don't like to gamble like that, because no one wants to get fired for buying a product that never worked or can't be verified, for that matter.
Yeah, it's and right on the money. It's right on the money.
Yeah, and one way you can verify your work or come up with some type of portfolio as well. And I'm sorry, how y'all doing?
What's going on?
What up?
Yeah. So I was just gonna add, one thing you could do to validate your work or show your work, especially when you're looking at proposing tools to companies, is by having a portfolio online. And a great way to have that is on GitHub. A lot of people use GitHub to develop tools and show that they can actually do the work, and add that to their portfolio or resume as far as whatever they're trying to propose to whatever company. They can actually see some of the work that you have done in the past. And as far as your coding skills, as far as you know, how you document, you know, all that can be put on your GitHub as well. So I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. That's actually a very good point.
Yep. Definitely I definitely co-sign that. Smooth Vision Media. I guess you asked me, Mike, do I have to do A+ before moving to Security Plus? It depends. You don't have to do anything. There is no mandate on the path of certifications, but the way CompTIA structures it is that a typical person would move from A+ to Network Plus to maybe Security Plus after a certain tenure. What happens here is that some people do go out and get their Security Plus, but they have absolutely no clue about security at all. They were able to pass the exam, but they had no idea how to speak security from a native tongue. So they did all the cramming, all the examining and stuff like that, but they never really worked in an environment where they actually had to be responsible for the security of an organization or a line of business, and that becomes a problem. And so the logical path is A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Now, before it used to be Server Plus and Linux Plus and stuff like that, but Security Plus, people get Security Plus when they're trying to get into security, not just to have the cert. People get A+ because desktop support in most areas require that you have an A+. We went over the Rex yesterday. I can go over it one more time because I think you might have been not here for that other meeting that we had, live stream that we had yesterday. So let me pull it up for you real quick so that you understand what recruiters are looking for. Let me share my screen. This one says help desk support technicians needed as soon as possible. The working shift is from Monday to Friday, 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Provides desktop support, application support, and problem resolution for applications, perform routine moves, changes, and upgrades, handle help desk calls, run application and endpoint troubleshooting, contribute to networking and server support. Strong customer service skills are needed from a qualification standpoint. Excellent written, verbal, and interpersonal communication skills, technical knowledge, A+ certification. If they're asking for it, there is no way around it. This is what they're looking for. So the question becomes, why are you getting Security Plus if you're not working in security? Are you trying to get into security, or are you just getting it just to have it? A+, Network Plus, Security Plus is the logical path that most companies pretty much look for. I'm not a recruiter, but Nagone is a recruiter. I don't know if Nagone might have a disagreement.
No disagreement.
Okay.
No disagreement. No disagreement.
Yeah, see, recruiters want to sell the candidate in the best shape that they can, or in the best format that they can. They don't need any guys coming half cocked, walking in there, half drunk, not really prepared, not fully prepared for the interview, not fully qualified. Can't send off a candidate like that. Can't send off a half-baked meal, man. You giving the client food poisoning, man. That can burn the recruiter. Recruiter gets burned because he sent the bad candidate, and then maybe they say, well, we really don't want to do business with you anymore.
It's like I would say it's almost akin to like sitting down to a steak dinner or any other decent meal, and it's not cooked. It's not cooked, man. It's not cooked. You're like, what is this? She ain't cooked. Send us back to the chef. Have him cook this thing. That's kind of the deal. And then what's the odds of you coming back to that restaurant again? You know, these guys are serving me, man, uncooked food, man. I'm out though. So that's how that works. So we want to make sure people come in prepared. The game is right. And you know, where I add value, immense value, is making sure that when you walk through that door to that client who's now going to interview and possibly hire you, you've got the best shot of getting that, because we've prepped and did all we could to make sure that you're in position to get that. But you got to come walking through with the proper skill sets first. You're coming through with all the desire in the world, but you're unrealistic because your skill sets are not there. You know, it's not going to happen. We got to be realistic about what we're trying to do. Exactly. So that's really where I'm coming from, and it's really just that simple. So I want people to really understand it. That's why when Mike talks about getting your certifications and getting your fundamentals and getting all the stuff down, it's very important. You're not going to be able to get around that in this process, especially if you're Black. You know, even though you're coming in, they're definitely going to want to see that you're qualified. They may let a couple of these, you know, mayonnaise walk through because of who their family might be or something else like that, and they'll do that. Man, that's pretty much not coming down your way. So you got to make sure that, you know, your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. So our game is to make sure that you walk through that door with all that in hand. And it's going to require some work on your side of the fence. You damn right it's going to require some work there. You bet it will, but it'll pay off.
Yep. Can't stress that enough, man. Guys got to be put in, you know, I talked about this yesterday on the other live stream for Black Tech Talk about study strategies. Got to put in the work. Nothing comes easy. You got to put in the work. You can't be coming in there half-cocked, no certs, no traps, no rhomboids. You can't be walking around like that, man. You can't be walking around naked in IT. You gotta have some medals up under your belt, some achievements up under your belt.
Now you can't come in trapless, man.
No doubts.
Looking like a hanger. You finished.
Yeah.
Like that's funny. I'm sorry.
It's funny, but it's real, man, because
it's absolutely true.
I see guys walking around, you know, they want to become, you know, network engineers and stuff like that. Never even open up a Cisco book. Never worked on Cisco switches and routers. Never touched the network other than plugging in a LAN cable. You got to put in some work, man. That's just not going to happen. It's just unrealistic.
Facts. So you got to put in work. You damn right you do. Any shortcuts? Not even once. Not even once. So that ain't gonna work for you. Yeah. But you put the requisite time in. Let's set the game right. You are more than good to go.
Yeah, I recommend guys, you know, people, I should say, you should at the very least be studying at least 90 minutes a day, just reading. Open up a book, whether it's an ebook or a physical book, and just go through it. I always keep a highlighter with me, so I can highlight things I just don't know, so I can refer back to it and then try to brush up my knowledge on some of these terms and stuff that I haven't heard of before. A lot of legal terms that I haven't really been privy to, and so I have to highlight those terms and do my research on it, and then get an understanding of what it is that they're talking about and how it relates to some of my line of work. Sometimes it doesn't always apply, so I don't really know about it. I don't have to work with SOX, right? Sarbanes-Oxley. You know, that's more of a financial thing. In my industry, we don't really do that. We focus more on HIPAA and high trust. So just keep that in mind. Yep, Smooth Vision Media, 90 minutes just reading. Just reading. I got about 24 articles that I printed out from work just so I can read. I haven't even got to it as of yet. I was going to get to it if I didn't do this live stream. But that's how I think, right? I have to gather up these articles that come into my my inbox and stuff like that get sent to me. Like that could be really that could be really beneficial to me down the line. Let me get an understanding of what they're talking about here. Let me see if we got one attendee. Zone's coming onto the panel. Maybe Zone has some questions. Keep it techie, man. You have anything you want to add? I know you've been.
Well, I heard somebody say automation and IT. Well, one big thing they're pushing now is Ansible.
Yep.
And this is you can run it on a Linux. Yeah, you can run it on a Linux box or whatever. You can set this up on your own. All the information is out there on how to actually use it. But invest in Ansible, so to speak. They got certifications out there. They got Udemy training on it or whatever. But this is something that's coming, and this will affect the help desk. This will affect the server bills, all server bills.
Mm-hmm.
All this is going towards the automation setup. So a systems admin guy, where in the past he used to have to set up the server, go through and could do all the configuration and all that stuff. It's going to be handled by Ansible by the click of a button. Somebody in an organization will say, we need a server built to do X, Y, and Z. And they'll go to a form on a website because you can have a web front end for it. And I need X, Y, and Z. These are the IP addresses. I need a SQL server built to handle this with this configuration. And they push a button, and an hour later, that server is up and running. All you have to do is go in and start setting up whatever application that you built it for or whatever. But all the base level configuration that you used to have to do for servers is kind of going away to this automation. And I'm not sure if Ansible is the only one out there. I haven't researched it too much, but I know Ansible is one of the ones. It's the main one that they're talking about right now, and they use a language called YAML, which
YAML.
is YAML.
Yeah,
and
language.
Yep, and it's a simple language. Like I took a course on it not that long ago. It's a requirement for my position. Even though I'm a database administrator, we set up a lot of servers for applications, and the platform guys, or the guys that actually set up these servers for us, or used to set up the servers for us, have built, and a lot of it's in Python as well. So Python is important as well, because they run scripts after the fact as well as PowerShell. But yeah, the automation is coming. So
it's good that Keep It Tech is bringing this up, because in Ansible, it actually allows, if one of the containers goes offline or fails, it can actually rebuild itself. That's one of the key aspects behind it.
Exactly.
Hey, Mike, there's another couple questions in here.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, Terrence is kind of a two-parter. He says, if I'm looking to transition from insurance into tech, once I obtain some certs in programming languages, what position should I apply for? But then he has another question. I think it actually kind of speaks more, or kind of answers his question in a way. It says, being that I'm in insurance, with familiarizing myself with fintech and telemed, I guess should he take that approach? And so honestly, I think that's more of the question that you want to ask, Terrence, is, given that your background is in insurance, should you be familiarizing yourself with fintech and things like telemed? Absolutely. This is what we talk about when we talk about like bridging over to this new format, this new way of doing things. So that would be a bridge over, right? So instead of maybe in your lane, instead of maybe, taking on programming, getting certs and all that, you might want to explore fintech and telemed and say, okay, is there a transition in where maybe it requires a different type of cert? You can start to key in more and start to kind of fine tune and key in and say, okay, well, look, I've done this over here. So over here, all I need to have is this little certification here, and then all of those Udemy's and all the other Udacities and all the other micro degree and certification platforms that we talk about. That's when you go hit them up, drop your little 249, whatever, get the cert, boom. But that's how that's how maybe you might want, or anyone who's listening, think about taking what it is that they know now, and then in exploring this new IT, tech-based paradigm we're talking about, how do I take what I know and transition over?
Yeah, I agree with that. You see, I think he said he's in his late 40s.
I think that was somebody else. That was the other question I was going to read. I think that might be somebody else, actually. Yeah, Bloodsport. Mike, if someone is in their late 40s,
Let me answer the first one first. Let me answer Terrence first.
Okay, go ahead.
So you get certs to qualify what you master in, right? It's what certifications are for, to certify your mastery. Programming languages, it all depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? For desktop support people, PowerShell matters. For networking and security people, or DevOps, Python matters. And maybe JavaScript might matter in some areas, but overall Python would be the number one choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what part of tech you're trying to get into, so you have to kind of narrow it down, because tech is a pretty broad term.
Well, he did say fintech and telemed.
Oh, fintech and telemed. Oh, well, fintech, that's all based on whatever language the cryptocurrency or the tokenization is going to use, right? There's different languages, Java, JavaScript, Python, C++. Those things are all components. Those languages are all components of some of these, some of these fintechs that are out there right now. Fintech, keep in mind that fintech is usually referred to an organization, not really to a individual practice.
Well, no, I think what the question was that was somebody who has an insurance background, would like fintech or telemed be more of, say, like a transitional area to go into? Okay, so like, let's just say in third industrial environment, you worked in insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you work maybe for like a Health Net or a Blue Cross or something like that. However, in a fourth industrial environment, does that type of work background translate into something? So if we're talking fintech, then say something of fintech that deals with insurance in some capacity, or something like telemed. I mean, that was kind of generally what his question was, based on how I was reading it.
Yeah. Telemedicine does require some understanding of the healthcare industry. So I'm not sure what part of insurance this person was in, but it does require some literacy of what goes on in medicine, in the insurance aspect of it as well, because largely what telemedicine is trying to do, or telehealth is trying to do, is trying to deliver healthcare as a service over the net. So there has to be some understanding. Fintech in this regard may not actually help you, because healthcare and finance doesn't really go together all that much, and not in that regard.
Okay, and the other question was, Mike, if someone is in their late 40s, is it too late to get into IT? Also, learning A+ and Python is best to learn before learning cloud.
Ageism is a problem. Anything over 40 at the entry level is pretty difficult, because they can't compensate you like a person over 40 who should, thinks they maybe should be compensated for. What I think here is that anyone coming into game over 40 is going to have to be in a consultancy role, mostly because the age discrimination after 40 is very critical, especially at the entry level. So being a consultant, being really knowledgeable about network services, sales, somebody in their 40s would be really great for sales.
Yeah.
Especially if they're confident. If they're confident, they can sell, AT&T fiber services or Verizon Fios services for business and stuff like that. That's where that comes in. I don't see too many guys deep into their 40s or pushing 40 in desktop support like that. I know they're out there, but not to that extent. Mostly because they kind of just get their skill set and they move on. Now, if you're trying to get back into it, maybe the pay may not be sufficient for you, because the pay is really from an entry level standpoint. So I would look more at infrastructure based services as a way to get into that part of the market. I know Cisco is pretty good at training people, Palo Alto as well. They're pretty good at training people for sales, in terms of selling the technology off. Now, if you want to get into help desk, you got to be really skilled for that too. Customer service is big, but understanding the technology that you're trying to support becomes critical. You're not too late to, you're not too late to get into it. But it's just a matter of what it is you're trying to get yourself into.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, and I'm sorry if y'all hear that, man. I'm in the garage and it's windy as hell today. I think another good area, especially like if you're over 40, and I would say that if you had a broad cross section of positions where you were sort of like responsible for like the development of things at some point, then business development in that space would also be a good thing too. Knowing how to put a product together and bring it to market. It doesn't necessarily require that you know how to code, but it requires that you understand the product and the application of it, which is more easily digestible of a pursuit than learning a coding language, right? So if you want to get close to it, but not necessarily hands-on, you could get, because that'll still get you deep into the tech game. Being able to develop business with tech, it's good to have a technical understanding, but again, it doesn't necessarily require that you know how to code. And I think that is maybe a line to pursue or an area to pursue as well.
Okay. Terrence Forrest Jr. says, actually, let's go to Maurice November.
Yeah, I think there's another question too.
Yeah, let's go to November 8. Would project management or Scrum Master be an easier and faster transition? What is he? I guess he means into tech. Yeah, you can. I know people who do have their PMPs or their Scrum certifications, and they've gotten into tech that way. Yeah, so that is a possibility, but you kind of silo yourself into just that role of being a PM. And I don't know how many people want to just be a PM.
What's a project manager or a Scrum Master?
A Scrum Master?
Yeah, and a project manager.
Project manager, basically in IT, a project manager helps keeps things on track for the stakeholders in the project itself. He or she is that person that is responsible for facilitating all the logistics and human resources and capital for a project. So if, let's say we were working on a project going from Windows 7 to Windows 10, there's a project manager involved in all of that to make sure that all the stakeholders involved from different lines of the business and whatnot are all kept abreast and all on the same page in terms of the rollout itself. And that person, he or she is actually keeping in coordination with tech, IT, marketing, other lines of business. They're responsible for all of that. They're responsible.
They are literally the project manager.
Yep.
Okay, I thought it would be like different when it comes to IT, but it's similar to any other type of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, the title in and of itself is very generic for a specific reason, and that's the reason why it applies across different industries. Right? You can have a project manager in sales, a project manager in IT, project manager in construction, project manager in manufacturing, project manager in science. You know what I mean? It's like it's a person who is essentially responsible for the completion of a project, whether it's to bring something from concept and design to production, or implementation, of a software or a system update or network update, as Mike was referencing. It's the person who's responsible for the coordination of it all.
Yeah, it's like a leadership role where you control a group of people and tell them what to do, pretty much.
Yeah, managing the time that people spend on the project. I just went through that course not that long ago, that skill, the agile framework or whatever, with the scrum master, the project manager. I mean, it's mainly just to facilitate, like you guys all said, and I'm sorry to repeat everything, but you guys are spot on. It's just to facilitate everything and make sure the project meets the deadline that they propose as far as rolling out whatever application or whatever it is you're building. So.
Yeah. But project management is starting to take a little bit of a turn because Scrum is coming into play now, right? So the agile format is becoming more appreciated within IT than anything else because it moves at a faster pace, right? You meet every single day rather than weekly. Project managers usually meet on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. For Scrum, you're meeting every single day to go over every single objective, because it's similar to football, right? In football, they go by downs. And so for Scrum and for Agile, for that matter, it's always every single down you get, every first down you get, you're regrouping for that next strategy. That's how they work. In project management, the format is vastly different. Whereas if you meet once weekly and there's a failure in the project, that can delay the project even further. With Agile, you don't do that. You meet every single day to prevent a failure in the process, so that you're not delaying any sort of the objective.
Okay,
That's my of it.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, but it also answers Maurice's question as well, because Maurice asked, whether or not would project management or Scrum Master be an easier or faster transition. You can become a Scrum Master, but yeah, I think Scrum Master courses are like 2 weeks or something like that to become a Scrum certified or Agile certified. It is a considerable amount of hours to study. Question: what does everyone think about the new February 2020 cert for Cisco? Cisco has to update their certs. That's just a matter of keeping pace with the industry itself in the market. I think if you haven't got your Cisco cert as of yet, you know, you got to wait for the February 2020 update. Thaco asked again, if you can't not manage IT project assets, how can you manage anything else? A lot of asset management is now being automated, Thaco. A lot of asset management is being automated now, especially with discovery tools. Discovery tools are actually making it easier to manage all those assets. So it can find every single asset that's networkable inside your organization. CASB does the same exact thing. So Cloud Access Security Broker actually does the same exact thing. It would actually find all your software as a services in your organization and manage it.
There's somebody in the background.
Are they in front of you or by you? Oh, okay.
It's only Casper behind me.
Okay. Okay, we got Smooth on the panel, man. What's going on, Smooth? Smooth, can you hear us? Are you gonna unmute your mic?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
we can kind of hear you there a little bit. Yeah.
Give me a sec. Can y'all hear me better?
Yeah, we can hear you better now.
There we go.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen. I was just calling as a follow-up to my previous call a few days back, and I guess my question is really to Mike, because you're in cybersecurity. Just a recap again, like what's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. You know, since you're in cybersecurity, and that's actually the field that I'm looking to go. You can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Keep going.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the field that I'm looking to go into, and just wanted to know, as far as the certification goes, like what I'm doing right now is Network Plus.
Okay.
And but I heard you said that something about getting the A+ first before going into Network Plus. Does it really matter, or would those steps really have to be followed? And also, just in general, like I said, I'm looking to go into cybersecurity, but that's because I was advised by somebody that's in IT that if I want to get into IT, cybersecurity would be the best avenue to go into. So I guess my second question would be, what is your advice for people who have never been in IT before and looking to go into that? Because we already know that it's so broad. So yeah, that's my question.
Let's start with the first one. There is no mandate in how you get your certifications, but the logical steps that CompTIA has out. Let me pull this up for people who are watching or listening to this. What's up, real quick? So this is the logical path that I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, this is the logical path that CompTIA has set out. So core skills certifications, A+, Network Plus, and then Security Plus. The Security Plus assumes that you have the knowledge of A+ and Network Plus. It already assumes that. So if you didn't have it before, you may end up not having a sufficient score for passing the Security Plus. I've seen people fail Security Plus before, so it's not uncommon that, you know, if you didn't have the A Plus Network Plus knowledge, that you would have a difficult time passing Security Plus 2. Mostly because it's under the assumption that you pass the other two. Now, that being said, when I say people should have their A plus, I'm under the impression that people have come from a help desk role before they got into security. I don't know anybody in security that has not had a previous IT background. They came from some other part of IT. They never really just walked in as a first job into security. No organization or no director of operations is going to allow a unskilled person into their environment. That's too risky for them. They don't want that.
Yeah, and actually, the course that I had just started, it actually says that if you're going to go on that cybersecurity path, you have to start with being a network engineer first. So it's like starting me from the very beginning, and then once I got the network plus certification, then I can like see, try and get into cybersecurity properly, I guess, but with the necessary work experience and everything.
Yeah. I would say take your time, man. A recruiter.
You said take your time?
Yeah, I'm saying to take your time in terms of the career path that you're trying to go down. If you're trying to get into cybersecurity, having the Security Plus might help you in one area, but what happens when they start asking you some more in-depth questions? So that becomes a part of the issue. And I think the person that you were just mentioning that said that, or the trainer that you were just mentioning says you should have a network engineering background. That's true. That's very true, to understand network architecture, to understand the pathways that threat actors may use to breach your organization, right? So got to have a real fundamental understanding of that as to why that's important. And I think what happens here is that some people want to get into cybersecurity from a 0 years experience standpoint. There's no such thing as 0 years experience for cybersecurity. It always says that you must have at least 5 years experience.
Okay, so I would actually even be like a network engineer for 5 years before being like a cybersecurity specialist or something.
They're assuming that you have some network administration, network analyst work from before. That's what they're assuming. They're assuming that, right? So 5 years is like a rough time frame of what a person has in IT, not just network administration, but or engineering, but from an IT perspective, where some people can transition
like or bear.
Go ahead.
Senior help desk. Like bare minimum senior help desk.
Yeah.
Wait. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, bare minimum senior help desk.
Yep. Because they're assuming that you have all of these other qualifications, and if you didn't have it before, it's going to be difficult to get in. But they will know whether or not you have that skill set when they bring you in for an interview, or even an over the phone interview. They'll ask some pertinent questions, and if you can't answer them, then they'll probably just move on. Even IT recruiters kind of will figure that out when they when they look at your resume. Somebody like the Gone will say, well, have you worked on this? Have you worked on that? And you're gonna be like, well, no, I haven't really worked on that. I haven't really touched any of that stuff. He's gonna move on because he has other candidates he needs to get to.
Okay.
So I'm not saying to discourage anybody from getting into cybersecurity. I'm saying with all the recent activity that has happened just this year alone, the AWS Capital One breach, that's huge. They're very sensitive about letting people into their organization or into their fraternity, which cybersecurity has become a fraternity, who can't really contribute to their needs for the line of business. So that's what they're looking at.
Okay.
But this is the logical path for core skill set. That's what Security Plus is about, core skills. Security Plus assumes that you have A+ and Network Plus skills. Infrastructure pathways, so Linux Plus, Server Plus, Cloud Plus, those are infrastructure-based certifications. That's why I said earlier, when someone mentioned cloud security, cloud is a piece of infrastructure. That's what it is. That's what I was mentioning earlier. It's a piece of infrastructure. Security is an ongoing practice, an ongoing process of the line of business. It's about business continuity. And you can see right here, cybersecurity pathway, cybersecurity plus, and pen test plus, and CAST, which is a top level certification. Everybody I know who has tried to take this test has failed. So for those who think that CompTIA is easy, it's not. This certification is very, very brutal towards people.
Okay.
Yeah, I met a lot of people with in the military that have CAS. Yeah, it's a good service. Well, not in the military, but people that work on government contracts that have like top secret clearances and all that stuff. They have CAS.
Yeah, if you can pass the CAS certification, you can do your job pretty well. It's pretty strict.
So, so like you said, with Security Plus, it assumes that you have A+ and Network Plus already. So I'm starting from Network Plus, so I still have to go one step back based on that graph to A+, because it's like the course is starting me off on to do the Network Plus cert. So like literally, it's taking me all the way back to to start, because I'm pretty much fresh, like beginner.
Yeah, if you're fresh and you're trying to get into and you're trying to get a cert, A+ is something that helps. Let me show my screen again, because I think we went over this yesterday. We're gonna try to put more emphasis behind it. This is based on the new certification. So new certification for CompTIA for 2019. It last refresh was 9 months ago, 11 months ago. What they're talking about here, they even mention security and cloud computing. So the new certification reflects a lot of what you're talking about. So security, identify and protect against cybersecurity security vulnerabilities for devices and their network connections. So they're talking about security in A+ now, but before there was never talking about that. Same thing with cloud. They're talking about virtualization in cloud, compare and contrast cloud computing concepts and set up client-side virtualization. They wasn't talking about that last certifications before. So now what they're talking about is making sure that you have it's saying you have to have these sort of knowledge and comprehension of this even at the A+ level. So getting the Security Plus means that you're trying to, let me see if I can pull this up now. Getting the Security Plus means that you're trying to get into cybersecurity at that level of understanding of how to actually secure a network. So if we look at, it talks about threats, attacks, and vulnerabilities. When did they launch this, sir? Okay, this was a couple of years ago. So threats, attacks, and vulnerabilities, identity and access management, risk management, technologies and tools, architecture and design, cryptography, and PKI, public key infrastructure. So what they're talking about is being at the administrator's level of security. This is a far stretch from the A+. If we go back to the A+, is really focused on the end user and endpoint security, or endpoint support, I should say. And that's why you see it has such a broader skill set to master and validate, right? Hardware, networking, mobile devices, virtualization and cloud computing, hardware and network troubleshooting, operating systems, software troubleshooting, security, operational procedures. That's a lot of responsibilities to take on, even at the desktop level. And
but
so,
naturally, Mike, it has to be at this stage, right? Because now all these other types of devices, like smartphones, tablets, and all that, these are all part of the operating environment. So now you have to know, you know, how to interface with, you know, a smartphone that's on the network versus a tablet that's on the network, you know, versus a computer that's on the network.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what they're talking about here. So I would, if I'm Smooth Vision, I might want to look at that A+ before getting to Security Plus.
Okay. No, I'm doing Network Plus right now, but you saying I should look into the A+.
Well, if provided that you don't actually have to take the A+, your job doesn't require that you have to take it. Yeah, then continue with Network Plus. But I'm saying the logical path that CompTIA understands and that most organizations understand is that you're
well-rounded.
Yeah, you're well-rounded in these areas, and if you're not, you know, it's going to show up either when you take the exam or when you go for the interview.
Gotcha.
Maybe Josh might have a difference of opinion.
Okay. So I guess I'm gonna have to change up my little career path on that Cybrary website then.
Are you military?
What's that?
Are you part of service?
No.
Okay. I mean, because it at certain levels, or certain positions, certain contracts. I don't know if you're trying to get into government contracting, but there are people that can get into government contracting without security clearances and all that stuff. At certain levels, you don't need A+. They want to, I mean, and it's good to have the foundation and the fundamentals of how it all works. Exactly what like Mike says. I'm not discounting anything he's saying, but at certain levels, Network Plus will get you in the door because it's required for that specific contract. So at a help desk level, they may not care if you have A+, but if you have Net Plus or Security Plus and you've passed those courses, they'll work with you at a certain point. And I'm not saying don't learn the skills of A+, because at the end of the day, I didn't take A+, and I'm in government contracting. I don't have any of those certifications at the lower level, but the difference is I had a associate's degree that covered everything that was in A+. So I had that on my resume as well. So I was able to skip A+. I took Net Plus because when I started, I wanted to be a network administrator. And that goes back to everything Mike was saying earlier about it's all in what you're passionate about. At one point, I was passionate about just being a network administrator. I just wanted to sit in the server room, manage all the switches and routers, manage the servers, and manage the whole network. So that's all I wanted to do because I'm not a people person. I don't like people, to be honest, just to say it that way. At the end of the day, I rather face with the computers or the switches and the routers and the terminal. So it's all about, you know, what you're trying to do and if you can, and in looking at the requirements for what you're trying to do and actually matching those requirements to your skill sets.
Hey, Mike, there was another question, or was there anyone trying to follow up? Anyone else had any?
No more follow-ups.
Okay. So Terrence had asked, I'm currently getting my blockchain cert through EDX. I work on the actuarial, side of the insurance business. The actuary, that side, actuarial. Okay, anyway. Side of the insurance business, I would like to work on the smart contract aspect of tech. Any suggestions?
Where it's actual.
Actuarial.
He's actually.
Okay,
So it's actuarial business.
Actuarial. There we go. So here's the thing, Terrence. Because, and this is just kind of my take on it. We used to do a lot of this type of stuff, and then I think we kind of naturally stopped because we really just didn't want to give keep giving away good business ideas. But I would say that if you, in your mind, based on what you know of down that side of insurance, see, here's the thing: the key is to learn blockchain in a way where you're trying to learn it to understand how to apply something to it, right? So since you know that side of insurance, you understand how to put together an actuary table and all that type of stuff, then you approach blockchain from a, how do I use that to do this?
Yeah.
And see, what happens is that from a conceptual standpoint, you'll start to learn and understand blockchain a whole lot quicker because you already have an application in mind. So that's really kind of the thing there. And the reason why I'm kind of being very vague with it is because when you do that, I think because blockchain is so new, you may actually want to patent that IP. So without getting too detailed, I'm trying to kind of give you a direction or a directive of where to go based on your question. But again, because look, it's been said that blockchain development right now at its current state and its current stage is where the internet was in 1992. See, so that means that pretty much right now, think about it, that's pre-Amazon, pre-everything you pretty much know in terms of the internet and what it is that you use today. Okay. So right about now, and this is why we've been beating the drums on this shit and really been putting this out there. Like, if everyone thinks that we're actually behind the ball on this, okay, again, who was investing in the internet in 92? Because that's where all of this stuff is right about now. If we're to make a correlation between something else so that you can get a frame or a reference on things. So now would be the time for you to, and this is just my own opinion on this, is that if that is what you know, then study blockchain to develop that actuary algorithm or that actuary blockchain application. You already understand the actuarial side of things, so understand blockchain so that you can make an application for it and then own the fucking IP.
Yeah. So to answer that question as well, the blockchain cert that you're talking about through EDX is not an actual certification; it's a certificate. So you're not actually mastering anything in blockchain. You're just getting a certificate. Certificate is something that you've learned, and a certification is something you master. So that's the two differences there. He said, I would like to work on smart contracts, on the smart contract aspect of tech. Any suggestions? So you got to understand the programming language that goes into smart contracts, or in the blockchain itself. So depending on if you're using Ethereum, with Ethereum, I think it's Go might be the language for Ethereum 2.0, I think, if I remember correctly. I might be off on that. Actually, let me just verify that. Okay. Solidity. Solidity is the language. Sorry. So you gotta learn Solidity, but what they're saying about Solidity is that it's very close to that of Python and Rust and Go. Go is JavaScript from I think Google or Facebook, one of the two. But the point of the matter here is Solidity is the programming language that they use. So you're gonna have to learn Solidity in order to write smart contracts on the blockchain for all intents and purposes. So learn Solidity, learn how to program, and learn how to business model. I would use something like Smart Draw or Visio to make sure that you're connecting the dots on everything here.
See, I'm of the view, sorry, that's just the garage door opening. I'm of the view that if you already have a specialized skill set or a knowledge in something, you're kind of like actually ahead of the game. Because see, you can basically take the concepts of blockchain and then reverse engineer it into what you already know. In all truthfulness, that's how I really look at this stuff and approach it. Is that if you already have a high specialization or an understanding of something, shit, video. If you have a specialized knowledge in something, then understand the fundamentals of blockchain so that you can reverse engineer it into what you know, and then own that application.
Yep. I see Nagon came back onto the panel. Nagon, do you have anything you want to add? Anything you've heard so far? Anything you think that we should close out with?
I think he stepped away.
All right. I don't know if there's anything else in the chat.
I think that was it. Zone, I'm trying to hit button willow again, man.
I don't have time for that.
I actually might head out here.
Question: what does everyone think about? Oh, yeah, we answered that already. So
did we answer that one?
Yeah. All right, we'll close out. Thank you all for joining us, and please hit the like button if you've not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. If you're looking to get into IT for the first time and need some mentorship, we do offer IT mentorship here. If you are transitioning from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you have a resume that needs to be looked at and are in question about salary negotiation,
someone's in the background.
Is that Nagon?
No, Maurice. Also, if you are in the tri-state area and you are looking for IT recs, Nagon 11 does have recs on the table for those who have the skill set to offer.
Hey, this is Maurice from the chat. You guys
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, sir. I wanted to follow up what you say at Complex Design, and I wanted to know if I'm thinking about this in the right way of what you've been talking about. Because I have a business meeting with opportunity for creating a digital product for farmers. So be able to, at a high level, pretty much do subscription services directly with clients, with farmers in the South. And because I've been listening to you guys talk, a good chunk of our meeting in the next day or two is going to be talking about blockchain for tracking orders and fulfillment between the farmer and the recipient. So are you kind of thinking about it in that way? Because you know, ideally, I wasn't even thinking about blockchain until I started listening to a lot of your panel talks. But now that we're exploring it, it's actually becoming a foundational piece to our business pitch.
That's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. Yep, pretty much.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. So I think to kind of expand on it is, so this is how I'm hearing everything, right? So my understanding of all the stuff I've been listening to and research outside of these conversations, blockchain becomes a way for you to track movement in a business process from A to B. And if you could figure out how to apply that ideology and technology to a business model, say connecting to local farmers and setting up a subscription service, you can have an understanding of how to turn on a dime in real time, because you have an understanding where all the processes are kind of unfolding from moment to moment.
Bingo.
And the biggest part that we learned, we interviewed a couple of farmers a month ago. Here's what they told us. They're having a difficult time on getting real-time information from the client. So if somebody wants mushrooms, they won't know for a half a year. They want mushrooms. They
Mike.
said to us, hey,
I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh yeah, hey, if you can tell me in real time what they want, we can get it ready in 6 weeks. Blew me away. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, well, we don't get this information. Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say, so Mike, can you speak to the many conversations we had about how blockchain speeds up the process through like Open Ledger?
Yeah, so this is happening at the speed of the wire, right? That's how fast some of these distributed ledger technologies actually work. Blockchain is just a brand name, but the distributed ledger technology is actually the correct term to use in this aspect. So you have various forms like IOTA, Ripple. There's a few other ones as well. Hyperledger. All of these have been working at the speed of the wire. So just as fast as you can move your mouse, it's just as fast as the transaction could take place.
And going back to what you guys were talking about, especially I want to kind of jump right back on what Complex Design said. So I used to work for USAID in DC as a contractor for about a year. Every government agency is having this problem. They can't get real-time information for budgeting. That's the biggest problem they're having. So they're still on Excel sheets in the field. Mm-hmm. If somebody could come up with a turnkey method to one, have somebody at high level, USAID is responsible for distributing relief aid across the world. And they're still on Excel sheets. Multi-billion-dollar organization, billion-dollar budget, and they're out in parts of the world on Excel.
Look, distributed ledgers update every 7 seconds, is it, Mike?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And guys, do you know the biggest pain point when I was working there, what it was? They would get all the feedback from the field a year later, and they had in real time then had to make high-level guesstimates on what to allocate for budgeting for every region of the world. They're literally, it's like I don't know if you guys understand like what we see in the stars, right? So when we see starlight, it's not what we're seeing in real time. We're seeing something from 100 years ago. That's what the government agencies.
That's how budgeting is. Yeah, when you're able to budget based on a distributed ledger, and you're able to get real-time data updated every 7 seconds, do you realize how much you can trim in terms of budgeting? Because you could write another algorithm that feeds off of that data that says, hey, look, here's what we're gonna project based on the data that we have now. Here's what we're going to project over the next week. So it gives you a week budget, like 1 week's budget, right? So that you have a budget that you typically do, but what you're going to do is you're now going to disperse it based on ledger findings, right? And you may have an algorithm and AI. See, this is why I hate having these fucking conversations when we're live, right? Because we start getting that's why I was like, but
here's a challenge, right? Here's a challenge, right? And I think these conversations are safe. This is what I've experienced working in STEM. There's a weird gap between what you just said and practical application within a business model. I think from what I've seen, a lot of tech people are really good at what they do within their line of work, but I don't think they're business people. They don't know how to
look, this is why earlier I was saying, look, for some people, their role in all this may be business development.
Good point.
Right? They don't have to be the guys per se. They have to understand how this is going to be applied, yes, but you don't have to know the language. Just understand future application, and you're the person that has enough experience because you've been working for as long as you have, especially if you're the over 40 type. So because the question actually stemmed from somebody who said, if I'm in my late 40s, would it be smart for me to or what do you think my process? I'm trying to remember the nature of the question, but basically just had to do with, if you're in your late 40s, should I take this up? And it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily have to even be that. You can say, okay, well, look, I'm gonna shift my area of concentration to tech, but I'm gonna use the skills that I know and just apply it. So that means, okay, yes, you may have to learn new terminology, and you may have to get familiar with, different people and personages who talk about certain things that are relevant to the tech sector. You may have to just, baptism by fire, to some extent, but there's a business development skill set that you've actually built, over your working career, and primarily in the 90s and the 2000s and 2010s.
Yeah,
Okay.
and to your point, to that brother who's making that transition in insurance, I don't know if he has a technical background, but I'm in it now, working in the tax region. To find people who are technically acclimated and then also can deal with people, man, that's a gift. We STEM folk are hard to work with. I ain't gonna lie. To have somebody glue us together with leadership, that person is needed vitally in this environment, especially with all the turn on a dime changes that's happening in the ecosystems. Like, to have somebody who has management experience and dealing with difficult people with a technical understanding of what you're building, man, that's a lane within itself.
Well, you know what? Let me do this, man. I want to finish the thought that I was saying. I stopped.
I'm sorry.
Companies pay well for people. That's why they do it.
Hey, wait. Hey, say that again.
I said that's why companies pay fairly well for people like that, because that is somewhat of a difficult transition, to be technically really sound and to really be able to deal with people. Sometimes I would almost say they're almost oxymoronic. I'm not trying to be funny either, but that's kind of where we are with some of this. Technically savvy people tend to be a little fucked up. I hate to call out. Hate to call out like that, and then they're kind of arrogant. They're people stupid, so they sit back.
Hey, who you calling arrogant?
It's fucked up.
People are like, what?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Who you calling arrogant, man?
Who you talking about?
They
How
are
dare you.
Talking about himself.
Hey, listen, I'm sorry. I'm operating, my pure Sagittarius fashion, but that's how it is. It's. I'm being very, very frank about it, man. It's brutally frank, because that's true. And people,
though.
They got and I'm out, though.
Well, let me say this, because I did want to finish. Look, I know I kind of stopped myself, but what the fuck ever. So look, what blockchain, if you're able to, say, like, write a algorithm off of real-time data that updates every 7 seconds, you can manage your budgets way more efficiently, because you can appropriate for data that's being fed to you in real time. Just like you said, a lot of farmers they don't get crucial data until like days or weeks even, whereas if they were being updated by something, every 7 seconds, they could better plan and budget.
That was the argument that the farmers that we talked to, they're not getting all the data in real time from the market. So
right, exactly.
So we're currently, to the point that you guys are making, we are in the next wave for tech innovation in tech right now. This is the 49er rush right now, right? So, and I'm starting to realize that all the technical stuff that has been happening in the last 20 years now is modifying existing business models, from finance to medical to tech. For the next 20 years, this is going to be the biggest grab in tech has ever seen. Who's going to be waiting for it, right? And so all the people with years of experience, I mean, man, this is an opportunity to start your own companies, go get funding, come up with a good idea, and just run with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is why we talk about it so much. That's why we talk about it so much on this channel, because we think that this is going to be the perfect opportunity for Black people to really get in and really just dominate. Because there's so many ways how blockchain can actually solve issues that socially impact Black people as a whole. I mean, we talked about smart cities, smart buildings, smart infrastructure, micro infrastructure development, social enterprises. All of this stuff is going to come out. Is going to be advanced through fourth industrial technologies, blockchain, 5G, cloud computing, autonomous vehicles. all that stuff is going to come into play. And unfortunately, judging by some of the conversations we've had, you know, on different panels, and a lot of people are not ready.
I don't think everybody is, to be honest with you. And then also like and once again, I think that's needed for therapy, but these conversations are needed also. Mm-hmm. And there's an opportunity, like for example, out of the manosphere, if I had any funding, I'm not going to those panels to talk to anybody. I'm coming to you guys. Like, hey guys, I got money on the table. What we doing? Mm-hmm. That conversation is gonna happen here, not on the other panel. It's not gonna happen over there.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, Maurice.
Yes, sir.
No, Maurice, November.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're speaking nothing but.
And they're gonna be breaking up, sir.
A lot of people, you like you say, you're not going to this other town. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get a little closer to my. I just got in. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer to my. A lot of people, for lack of a better word, I'm sorry, but they're just not talking. They're not on this. They're just not on it. They're not on it, man. They're not on it at all. I see few channels talking about this in certain respects. I know some people have some dedicated channels to it, but when we start talking about in the black sector, in the black manosphere in particular, this is rare. You're not going to hear about this a lot. We're really trying to get more people to get into this. This is not the kind of thing that's going to get a lot of views, and you're not going to have reptilian arguments and guys talking about, you know, who selected, non-selected, and whether black man is gay because he likes white women, or something like that. So, you know, those are going to garner a lot more crazy ass views than what we're talking about. But this is where people need to be as far as listening and talking and getting into this, because we're in a technical game now, and people are. You know, Mike understands it, you know, of course, Complex, and everyone else, you know, here, we understand this very well, but a lot of people not talking about it. That's what's getting around it. Go ahead.
To be honest with you, Nugum, because like these conversations are helping me understand who to work with and then who to listen to. And I think, because I grew up with this stuff, man, but I had these spaces at resolution and acceptance to that everybody ain't gonna make it, man. I'll keep it 100. I'll keep it a buck with y'all. Everybody ain't gonna make it, and it breaks my heart to say that, but that's the truth. If all conversations are very based in nature, and then no one's looking at infrastructure and building anything, then I'm gonna go roll with the folk, the 10% who's gonna be building stuff, and we just gonna have to leave the folk behind and maybe pick them up later if they're available. But I'm good with that. I'm good because I'm doing it in my own circle. Like I'm realizing a lot of the people I'm around are kind of basing those conversations, and I'm starting to separate myself away from them.
Well, I was going to say you're gonna have to be good with that, especially if you value your own foresight, your intelligence, and your abilities to create things, you know, that are going to enrich you. You should be enriched by your own creation. So if you value any of that, then you know, look, in theory, the idea of being, you know, we have a very sort of it's very rudimentary, right? And it's not very sophisticated in terms of our view of what community is. It's very one-dimensional, and it doesn't have a lot of nuance, you know. And what you can't do is you can't like cull your own God-given gifts, right? They're there for you to use. It's not to enrich yourself, but here's the thing, man. You do good works, man, you're gonna get enriched as a result. That's just kind of how it works, right? It's universal law. So it's not there shouldn't be a stigmatization of being one who's going to be a trailblazer or a pioneer or somebody who in this new digital gold rush, you know, can this new digital age, this new fourth industrial age can net itself a black John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah,
there should be no shame or no stigma in that.
Yeah, Agreed. And then to kind of broaden upon what you're saying, I know for me, I've been kind of guided by mentorship to kind of focus in medical, agriculture, logistics, and then business tech, and also B2B stuff. So this, to your point, like, you know, in this fourth industrial wave, a lot of these opportunities are here now. And to the point you guys were making earlier, I think that we got to kind of move away from, not move away from, but we got to kind of be dual mindset. It's one thing to work for a company, it's another thing to be an entrepreneur. And I think these conversations are helping people think about becoming entrepreneurs. Like, this is an opportunity to own your own company and to kind of carve out your own path versus following the existing one. So
No,
I'm excited
it's
for this
interesting you
conversation.
say that, man. You really
I think we should
believe
say
that
this too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole. Go ahead.
Complex. I just want to say this. I just
Go
want to
ahead,
say this.
go ahead.
I think I know where you're going, but I want to say this very quickly. And I like being a very realistic guy as well. Run businesses, understand what it is to run a business and the ups and downs and everything else about it. Not everybody is cut out to run their own business. You got to run. You know, we Black people, we need to be in much more entrepreneurship than we are, and we're really getting up on it. That's for sure. But not everybody's gonna be an entrepreneur, and a lot of people who are going to go into entrepreneurship are not going to be good at it. So that's a reality too. So, you know, we're going to have you know, people who are let's say running syndicate, but we also have to have people who are working with and down with the syndicate as well. So you got to have both sides, and we got to prep those for both, and how that works, how that meshes beautifully is having those who can start businesses and do things, but also having a working class of people who can support those industries with not only resources with respect to mental and time resources, but also you know, energy resources as far as really helping your company to grow and so forth, because you need to have good people in your company to make it work. So we got to develop all the way around. I just wanted to say that.
No, that's very pertinent, Nagon, because you know, at the end of the hangout we had yesterday, you know, I was telling Mike that I think one, and I'll coordinate with you, you know, with everyone on email. I want to put together a docket for, you know, basically a discussion on, you know, in the light of, see, I think when people have more of a clearer vision of what the future looks like, they're not as afraid of it, right? Because based on their current positioning or understanding, when you introduce new information, it doesn't necessarily align with what it is that they currently know. And then
that's a good point.
That's where the schism lies, right? So I was thinking maybe we talk about what a fourth industrial based society looks like, and like what maybe a lifestyle and things that go along with that, you know, in terms of like lifestyle practices, you know, health, diet, you know, in terms of interests, maybe, you know what I mean? Like what does it look like for a Black culture that is literally oriented towards the future, right? And engaged in all activities and things that align with it. What does it all look like? You know what I mean? Because sometimes I think we also look at these types of careers in these fields, and a lot of what we're engaged in on a day-to-day basis it doesn't align oftentimes. And that's where there's also a large schism, you know, where it's thought that maybe the shit that we're talking is just flighty and above everybody's fucking heads, and we're, you know, we're on this all space shit and all that. And it's like, well, no, it's like, you know, think about the type of things you put in your head on a daily basis, and you may see where the schism actually lies, because space is a real thing. But, you know, if you're more about female fuckery, well, you know, yeah, you know, a lot of your focal attention isn't put on things like, you know, astronomy and space, things like that. So it's not going to align well. So I think maybe a discussion about what a fourth industrial based culture is comprised of.
Would it be well, I'm for me personally, I'm viewing this from the place of
Mike, someone's in the background.
family and legacy. That's the way I'm viewing everything from. I'm building this for my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a good place to look at it from, but that's what's driving me currently. So
Well, you know, I'll say this: a lot of millennials and stuff. I'm an early Gen Xer, right? But a lot of millennials don't have kids and aren't planning to have kids and stuff like that, right? And earlier in this discussion, you know, Mike and I were talking about mobility in terms of being a contract employee and how it's actually beneficial for those who don't have children, who are mobile, you know, who can kind of, it supports the digital nomad lifestyle in a multitude of ways, where, you know, that's more suited for a lot of millennials. They don't have kids and they don't own property. They don't own hard assets that tie them down to one locale.
Now, is that digital nomad or digital incel?
Incel.
Depending on how you're looking at it.
No, who's
right. You know, but I really do think, though, that how Black culture is currently structured, it's not sustainable. It's in a fourth industrialized society, it's not sustainable. So I think in 2020, the focal point, well, at least in this venue here, you know, not to fire no shots or nothing, but I do think that, you know, in order for us to really kind of push on and go 3.1 with it, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the Brain Trust logo on 3.1, right? So that there's no question going forward. 3.1 should consist of living modality. Mm-hmm. As it relates to fourth industrialization. What type of culture, given what we have, can be built around something like the effects of fourth industrialization? And done so to net us positive results. That's what I mean. I think that should be the focal point for 2012, an actual deep dive into that, so we start to get more of a clearer vision of what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bringing up this article right now, sharing the screen now. I'll get to the other two members who just joined.
Well, Mike, can I jump in real quick? I apologize before you going on the article. I'm not going to hold you guys up for too long. Yep. First off is this. I just want to thank you, brothers, for what you do. I've been listening to you all for quite some time now, maybe the past couple months. I was introduced to you all via BGS, and since then, like, it's really changed my life in terms of you all introducing, you know, the seriousness behind the fourth industrial revolution, automation, and AI. And I just wanted to point out the fact that I know it can be frustrating, right? Because there's a lot of brothers out there that have these YouTube channels, large platforms, and I like them, you know, but they have what, 50, 60,000, 100,000 views, and they don't talk about this stuff. And it's very frustrating, you know. But what I wanted to let you all know is that me, myself, I have a YouTube channel. I get a couple thousand views on my videos, and I've incorporated what you all talk about concerning the fourth industrial revolution, you know, getting your CompTIA A+ certificates and whatnot onto my channel. And I just want to let you guys know that it's working. It's spreading. You know what I mean? Like, I got brothers that hop in the comment section that when I start talking about this, because I'm working on my CompTIA A+, and they tell me, hey, brother, I'm working on my certifications as well. So I'm not going to hold you guys up any longer, but I just want you all to know that it's working. It doesn't look like it maybe on the surface, but it's working. The work you guys are doing is spreading. So just thank you.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah, I'll second that. Yeah, you guys are putting some foundational elements in place for the next 5 to 10 years. And you guys are teachers, man. There's a lot of young folk who are coming in right behind this conversation to really listen and carve out their own path and destiny. So we don't see what's going on currently, but we'll see it in 5 years.
Yeah. I wanted to bring this article up because we just covered this a couple weeks ago, but African American men will suffer the most as automation destroys jobs once held by humans. People think that, when we talk about this is a pie in the sky, it's not going to happen. It's happening. All these industries that Black men previously worked in have been either they have been automated or will be automated at some point. Jobs like food services, food workers, fast food workers, production workers, which includes machinists and other factory workers and retail workers. Yeah, a lot of those Black men who are running around Walmart and Kroger's and Piggly Wiggly get replaced by cashiers and robots now. I mean, Stop and Shop. We covered an article back in the summer. Stop and Shop has this robot that goes up and down the aisle and can scan every single item in just a couple of seconds. A human being can't even do that, not even close. Even have I saw the other day there was a automated not a forklift, a pallet jack.
Pallet jack, yeah.
Yeah, pallet jack can pop itself under the pallet, lift up the goods, and then take off on its own and go. It knows exactly where it's going.
All you do is you just have a QR code based grid on the ground, man, and a little reader beneath it.
Well, not QR code, but actually there's sensors that they've already placed, these little stickers and stuff.
So they're using, okay.
Yeah, there's a network access points that it's constantly driving it around.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the sort of stuff. I mean, before you would have seen a brother pushing a hand truck or something.
The little hydraulic lift pallet jack joint.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now you got robots in stores. I mean, that robot was massive. It was taller than me. I think that thing was probably like 6'6", something like that. But the point of the matter here is that the fourth industrial revolution is not going to wait. It's not going to wait for a lot of these cats, man.
Hey, can you scroll back down to the center of that article, Mike?
Yeah.
But where it says Black male Americans are also underrepresented in low displacement categories.
Okay.
I've been preaching this since I've, began coming on panels, and right in this smack in the middle of this, what does it say? Health professionals. I mean, and again, even when we did the one over the summer about folks moving to Atlanta in the tech, Black folks moving to Atlanta, and I didn't completely agree with it. What are they saying in this third segment here? You're moving away from some of these major metros where this is where many of your opportunities are going to be. And I'm not saying Atlanta is not a major metro and that there's not going to be opportunity there. But if you're moving from places like Chicago or New York and you're moving south to Atlanta, I mean, eventually you're gonna have a lot of folks there and maybe less of an opportunity. So
is that Dr. Phoenix?
Yes.
Yep.
How you doing, sir?
Good.
Dr. Phoenix, sir, thank you for joining the panel. I'm in Atlanta right now. It's going to be here in tech here. There's nothing to compete with for 600 miles. There's nothing. So Atlanta runs the tech industry for this region of the country. Yeah. But if you're in places like DC, Dallas, California, those cities have to compete with other cities for workers. And so you have a little bit more wiggle room in negotiations. Here, this is the biggest thing in town.
Yeah, but to be honest, Maurice, a lot of that stuff is shifting to North Carolina.
Yeah, actually, I was just about to say that.
It is. Raleigh is popping right now for tech.
Well, you have that whole triangle. So you have Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte. So you have that triangle there, and so right in the middle of it, you have a lot of biotech, and specifically you have Duke and the VA medical centers right there in the middle of that.
Yep, UNC.
Wells Fargo and Bank of America is there too.
Banging for a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because again, this kind of goes into a bit of what I was saying yesterday about, I was talking about genetics being one of the major sciences of the 21st century. I talked briefly about the Human Genome Project ending in the early 2000s, and since the end of that, we've seen an explosion in the field of genetics. And one thing I didn't mention yesterday is that you realize a lot of folks don't realize that hospitals, biotech, pharmaceuticals, they don't have enough people who are educated, who are experienced geneticists. They can't fill these roles because they don't have enough qualified people, and they're looking for people.
Yeah, and the reason, and you're so right about that. The reason why it's hard because genetics, when you ever taken a genetics course like I did, and I know that certainly Dr. Spinks had too. It's pretty challenging course. It's challenging. You gotta put your time in. Let's just put it like that. Challenging course. A lot of people who are really going to get into genetics and really study hard and get this stuff right, and then you're going to get into your microbiome and all that. They tend to go either the nursing or the medical school type of route. Those areas I think kind of siphon off those people who are just going into strict genetics as research and so forth. And there is a crazy shortage there. Crazy shortage.
Yeah, now to add to what you're saying, they tend to fill dual roles, so they tend to be both clinicians and scientists.
Correct.
So that's right now, medical schools, so they have a dedicated resident, or I should say a fellowship to medical genetics. So that there's a fellowship for physicians if you're like in internal medicine, pediatrics, for medical genetics. Now even a lot of nursing schools they've revamped their programs, and they're offering certifications and training in genetics. In fact, the National Institute of Nursing Research, they host a annual program in the summer where you get basically a credit. It's pretty much like it's a boot camp for genetics, where they offer you it's like a 1-month crash course in molecular techniques, genetics. You get one-on-one mentorship with some of the top folks from the NIH and the CDC. So I mean, again, this stuff is major, but like I said before, to what Nagel was saying, is that folks who are in genetics, they tend to fill dual roles as both geneticists, as scientists, and as also as clinicians.
And what a lot of people don't see is that if you're going to be, because one of my friends, I was helping him out because he was looking to go into he's getting the PA. He was going to the PA program. He was a slightly older student, and he had a straight A average out of ASU, straight A's, had a 4.1 average in his sciences, and he did not get into the AP Stills school over there, and we had him all prepped because he was coming close to 50, and they didn't want him. They wanted the young girls in there. It was crazy. So I got a whole other issue as far
about the PA because
don't want to get into all that right yet. Don't want to get into all that.
I was gonna say, I'm just gonna put this out there, is that simply that about 10, 15 years ago, the PA profession was about 50-50 male versus female. Now it's about 70.
They wanted female, and they wanted preferably under the age of 20, under the age of 28. Let's just put it like that. And your man, I've never seen anybody with straight A's. Never.
Well, I would say
ever get knocked out. We did.
I would say this to your friend.
I never said that.
They're direct. If he already sound like he already has a degree, but there are nurse practitioner programs he can do that allow him to completely bypass a lot of that. So there are programs out there.
Well, he's kind of gotten out of that right now. He's kind of going in a slightly different direction. But straight A's, beautiful brain, wonderful student, and I worked with him on all this stuff. And okay, to make a long story short, his genetics teacher told him, because he was doing so well, we were really doing a lot of the genetics tests together, and I was really helping him out a lot. And then he just started taking off. It was crazy. But she told him, says, you should go, forget about going to be a PA, go into genetics, be a geneticist. She says, you don't understand the amount of money, the amount of research dollars, and all that's coming into the game. And a lot of you folks are just missing out on this. You should take a career in genetics. That's what she told him. And she was up in there saying, what are you fucking around this for? These guys are playing politics with this bullshit. She was like, with this PA shit, get up in this genetics because we don't have enough people. She said exactly what you were saying. I really knew. I heard it. And I was like, well, whatever, and it came from the horse's mouth. So it said
I
ridiculous amount of money. NIH, all the American Cancer Foundation, it's too much money in there. So you can make a lot of bread and then as a research geneticist, as a scientist in there, get your PhD in genetics. You're going to get your doctorate, and you're writing major tickets,
I've been
round trip.
I was told this when I was an intern, and I was a critical care intern. My last year of nursing of my undergrad program, nursing school, and my preceptor was an older white gentleman, but he been a nurse for a long time. And he said, and he straight up told me to my face, he said, well, look, if you really wanted to make some money, just go get you a PhD, study genetics, and you can pretty much write your own ticket. He said a lot of this stuff, he said they do play a lot of politics at at the higher level for clinicians. And it's very true, they do. It doesn't matter what where you at, PA, MP, physician, whatever, they do play. It is very political at that level. And he said, look, if you want to make
she told him that political even getting in.
Told him that.
Genetics. The women.
Mm-hmm. But I agree.
They're pushing women into the PA program.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a female-based program in a couple. It's going to be almost all female, and the guys out of there accepting in there are young and they walk around with ponytails and kind of skinny jeans and looking real soft. So you got a lot of that going on. Soft like Twinkie filling.
Yeah, I just said that.
That's who they're accepting.
Let me read this.
Yeah.
Let me read this one section. Black female Americans are expected to be to better weather the automation storm. However, that's mainly thanks to the fact that many of the careers will well represented by Black women, including home health aides, nursing assistants, and personal care aides, are expected to see more demand over the next decade. I don't know, Dr. Fingers, can you elaborate on that?
Well, all those careers they just named are kind of really low-end medical careers. I mean, that kind of goes to what you had asked Dark Side 90 yesterday about the med techs. That's pretty much what these careers are. I mean, yeah, they're relatively safe, but they don't have no real growth. Again, and the reason why you see a lot of home health aides is because a lot of these home health agencies can't afford to pay RNs. In fact, a lot of insurance companies don't want to pay RNs because you don't want to go pay an RN $300 for 15 minutes of dealing with somebody who has a wound in their home. You don't want to go do that for $300. You gotta go pay $300 for a 15-minute visit. Mm-hmm. They don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So they'll get a home health aide and they'll have like some RNs or something like that, train them or whatever, and then they'll send them out because you can pay them less. And also because just in general, they're just cheaper to employ and cheaper to train. And you can have like maybe one or two RNs that oversee all of them and just kind of, and these folks work under them. But I mean, the home health side of the game is, it's big money. I mean, this is all state money. I mean, you're quick to get audited in this area because, I mean, a lot of folks be running scams. But however, I mean, it is big money. But yes, Black women are overrepresented in those areas. However, what Black women are not overrepresented is when you start to move up that chain, which is what I was speaking to yesterday about having, Black women having to lead the charge in terms of dealing with maternal fetal health. And the only way they're gonna be able to lead that charge is one, moving up into the area. Genetics and obstetrics go hand in hand. You don't find one without the other. You cannot be someone that is an obstetrician, whether your family practice with an obstetrician fellowship, or you're OB-GYN doc, or your midwife, or women's health nurse practitioner, or even PA, where genetics is not a major component of a lot of the issues that you deal with in terms of dealing with Black women and obstetric and gynecological care.
Yeah, Dr. Phoenix, you just got to break it down to them and tell. Genetics is a major tool used in the medical industry today, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I think what you guys were saying is right on point. I did want to say something too to what Complex had said earlier about black men, if you don't have kids and stuff like that, you're not married, being contractors. Because I'm actually was watching before I came on, I was watching someone send me some videos about living in small homes, like tiny homes or whatever. And I do want to get everybody's take on that because I'm not completely sold on that, but
Well,
however, what I did want to say to what Complex was saying was that I 100% agree with that. And especially for someone in healthcare, if you're a physician or PA or MP, and you ain't got no kids, you ain't got a family, I say you need to be trying to negotiate a 1099. You need to be trying to do be a travel doc or a travel MP or something like that. That's my personal take on it because one, you shouldn't be having loyalty to a lot of these organizations because especially if you're at a provider side, a lot of these organizations will make you sign non-compete clauses. I'm sure Nagone is familiar with that in his line of work.
Oh yeah.
They will make you sign the non-compete clauses, and if they can fire you, they can downsize, they can get rid of your position. I've met a few physicians that they lost their residencies because they got rid of the residencies position, and so now they got to get back into the match and all this other crap. And so I mean, you can lose your position for any given reason, and they don't even really have to give you a reason.
That's an excellent point.
And you,
that's an excellent.
So now you're out of a job, and if you're most likely you were salary, so you were W-2, so you probably done sign a non-compete clause, which means now you probably done got locked out of a city or even a state for years.
Some of these people get caught in non-competes and are not even fully aware that they were in it, of which is kind of scary as well. But see, I know this one, she was an ICU nurse. Now she had to be Russian, so these Russians are real cagey. She, bodybuilder chick and all that. But ICU nurse. She just moved down to Florida. But that's all she was doing, man, was literally doing like per diem, kind of running her own game and was just running around making all kind of bread. I mean, making all kind of money. And not being tied down. And that's what she explained to me. Hey, listen, I won't be tied down to any one place. I'll be here as a contractor, was working, working from a almost a per diem basis. I'll stay here for as many days and then I'll rotate out, go somewhere else or whatever. They ain't going to be tying me down, because she also was taking advantage of some of the shortages that, that were around. She's got a Bachelor of Science and all that. She's well educated. And I think she has a master's as well. I believe she does. But she's tight. But she what you're just explaining is exactly what she understood and has avoided, and still got paid.
That for me, that's kind of my opinion on the matter, because I do agree 100% with what Complex was saying, because I think this is especially true of especially black men in healthcare. Because I know most black folks, they go into healthcare, doesn't matter where they're at, PA, physician, MP, whatever, nurse, whatever. Most folks just want some comfy salary position, and Negroes get fired all the damn time. I mean, let's just be honest about that. And so I'm a firm believer that, especially if you're a provider, you strongly need to consider doing contract if you're black and you're a provider. That's just my take on it. Because again, a lot of white folks that I've met, they're trying to get the hell up out of these salary positions. They understand that, like, yeah, these organizations are gonna work you half to death. You're gonna even if you think you're giving up your IRAs and your 401s and all that. And, they're all saying, well, the returns on this stuff is not as good as you think they are. You're better off just doing contract, making more money, and doing the investing yourself.
But you know what I see here in New York around these hospitals around, and my brother, he's like a managing director at a nursing home and all this, and so he goes to to the homes that these people have, and it's to these various nursing homes that his company owns, and it's real interesting to see. But the nurses, it looks like in a lot of these places, there's certain groups that have a lock on shit, like these Jamaican ones, these Haitians, and these Filipinas. They got like a lockup. They got like a lockup in here. Here in New York, they're all over. They're all over. In fact, I mean, it's like they got a lock. They are all over the place. And it seems like, that there's some ethnic angles to some of this. And it looks like, you just know you're coming out of, or some of these African folks, Nigerians and others, they know you come to the United States, for a lot of these women, get that degree in nursing. First thing you do. Okay, and then move elsewhere. But it's like bang, bang, bang. They're cranking these folks out because they understand that there's a shortage. And they seem to have a lock on shit. That's what I'm looking at. It's like, damn, how did this happen so fast? It looked like it happened quickly.
And and the reason I push brothers to more to nursing as opposed to PA, because it's the exact opposite in nursing. Nursing is like 90% women. They're trying to get more men. Not like PAs where it used to be mostly male and now they turn it all female.
Hey, Dr. Phoenix. But I hear a lot of complaints. I hear a lot of the guys who are nurses, because I know there's one male nurse. He goes to my gym. He complains. He's like, I get all the nasty jobs, the fat, nasty, sloppy people who are crapping all over themselves. And you got to pick them up and move them around. Says the female nurses, they do that. They leave it at him to do it. It's like, it's crazy.
I would tell you this much, man. It all depends on what setting you're in. I was in critical care, so I didn't really get that. Now I will say I have had certainly as an intern, I certainly had my fair share of some really icky stuff. A lot of it was gynecological related. I put it to you that way. I will say, yeah, you're gonna do that, but make no mistake about it. Even if you're a physician,
hold on, gynecological issues.
Yeah. A lot of poop.
Let's just say.
But I'm out though. I'm out though.
No, I'll say this much, man. Even as a physician, man, a lot of folks think there's no downsides to being a physician. Brother, go ask those residents what the hell they go through.
Hell.
I've seen it. I've seen
the ringer, dude. They would give you the most bull crappiest jobs ever. You'll be dealing with folks, and all the attendings know when they're dealing with a resident who's just got tired of seeing patients because they just start looking at the way he's documenting stuff.
Yeah, but it gets a little easier when you become chief resident. When you become chief,
it does. But again, that takes years. It's the same thing.
That's where it gets easy because you are going to be putting on.
It's the same thing in nursing, man. It takes years, brother. You go through the ringer. You go through that. That's what it is. Look, even as a student, you go get the bull. Even as a student, man, you get some crap jobs. They give you some crappy ass patients, man. I mean, as a student, man, I had patients, man. They gave me a patient that was full-blown case of dementia. They got C. diff. They got explosive diarrhea, vomiting all over the place. Got a trach. You need a damn face mask so they're not doing the exorcist on you and shit. So I mean, it's man, you'll get all kinds of stuff. So I'm saying that. Yeah, that's just kind of the dues you pay, and if you're a guy, yeah, they gonna give you the goddamn 500-pound motherfuckers. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I ever had was about 550 pounds. I'm like 5'10" and 160, and they giving me like 550-pound dudes with a bariatric bed, and yeah, it's.
I thought you was swole though.
No, but this is the problem. If you are swole, you got a problem. This dude, right?
I think the bigger you are, the worse it is.
Oh yeah, because this dude who goes to my gym, his name is Rambo. His name is Rambo. I mean, we call him, you're Rambo. He real cool brother, man. Real cool cat. Easy going, but he's swole. He's swole though, and they see him. They like, oh, we got a big, heavy, nasty job here, Rambo. You up though, and that's just kind of how it is, and he can't. No. That's all they do. He's like a muscle up in there. That's his guy get his nursing degree. He's a muscle. He's swole. He's strong. He's young cat. Like I said, he's about 20.
But I do want to just oppose that.
They work him,
and that's why I do push brothers towards doing stuff like kind of getting your becoming nurse practitioners, becoming scientists, stuff like that. Because again, certainly in the nursing field, once you become a nurse practitioner, you never deal with that shit. You don't deal with none of that.
Why not the PA route?
Yeah, no, you don't deal with it as a PA. Certainly as a physician, for the most part, you don't deal with that unless maybe you're in the surgery. You got to deal with those kinds of folks if you're a surgical specialty or something like that. But for the most part, once you move to that level as an MP, yeah, if you're a bedside nurse, man, you gonna always deal with the bull crap. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. And that's why I'm a firm believer brothers should not be spending years of their career, especially as a nurse, and you got a BSN at the bedside, dude. You should be trying to get your BSN and get the hell away from the bedside as soon as you can. I mean, yeah, you can make a lot of money at the bedside, but yeah, you gonna have stories like Homeboy. I mean, that's always gonna be the case. And two, just the career opportunities greatly expand once you move to that area. Once you move to that provider level, once you become a PA or MP or a physician, the career opportunities there. For example, I'm sure a lot of brothers may be familiar with this, but going back to Complex's comment about contracting work, if prison healthcare is almost exclusively privatized. I know and have personally met a number of physicians and nurse practitioners that do nothing but get contracts from prisons to do healthcare. They do basic stuff, just managing general folks with diabetes, maybe some diabetic wounds, very, very general primary care type stuff, and they make some money doing this. And this is kind of how prison care is for the most part. Most of it is just outsourced. And so, that is an area where there's a lot of growth. If you're okay dealing with that population. Now, I'll put a caveat: if you're okay dealing with that population.
Hey, there's a question from the chat. Terrence Forrest, he asked, how are they able to have a non-compete clause if you are let go? You want to explain that to him a little bit there?
Basically, non-compete clause is just a standard part of your contract. So this only applies to folks who are PAs, MPs, physicians. This don't apply to your general nurse for the most part. If you're a provider, the problem with that is that they always fear, or at least theoretically they fear, that you can potentially take that patient population with you. So if you're a good provider, your patients like you, whatever the case might be, if they were to fire you, let you go for whatever reason, they always are. They know you're a good provider. They always assume that your patients might follow you. So a non-compete clause applies whether you're within that whether you're with them or not, and it's usually for a period of time beyond the time that job that you had with that organization in. So it can usually be a couple years or years, something like that. It kind of varies, but the thing is that it's not that necessarily that the length of time it's the distance it covers. So the shortest distance I've seen a non-compete clause is about 50 miles. They can go upwards of a couple 100 miles.
And most non-competes usually are a year and under. So that tends to how it works. But it shows you the real economic side of medicine, worrying about where your patients might go and so forth. It's very interesting.
Hey, real quick.
I said, a lot of, if you speak to a lot of physicians, they'll tell you about that because, it's pretty common. I've certainly read stories and I've certainly heard stories where you have entire groups of physicians get fired and now they have to leave a state because they can't work because they got like a 200-mile non-compete clause. So now you got to leave a damn state and go someplace else to practice.
You should become a consultant.
Hey, real quick. I gotta shake out of here. I'm gonna go grab some lunch with my baby cakes. So, hey, Mike, did you have another stream schedule, right?
Yeah,
gaming computers.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
What time is that at?
It should be in about an hour or so.
Okay, cool deal. I'll be back for that one. All right.
Yeah.
Goes on.
It's 3 o'clock our time, I think.
Okay. All right. Cool deal. All right. Peace out, everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that
Peace
in
out.
there because
Hey, I'm gonna do the same thing, man. I'm gonna be back for the next stream.
Hey, have a good
catch you
one,
guys. This Josh.
Yep.
All right.
All right, let's end this one right now. Dr. Phoenix, finish what you're saying, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, no, I did. I just wanted to jump on just to throw that in there. Also, too, maybe next time you guys do one talking about maybe small houses, I wanted to kind of get you all's take on that because I know we talked about this before.
Tiny houses, yeah.
Yeah, because I had some videos thrown at me recently, and yeah, I was kind of watching them, and I don't know, I'm not completely sold on the idea, but yeah.
I think it's highly interesting. I find it somewhat entertaining, and I'm very interested.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense in developing nations, but in America, the zoning laws and whatnot, prevent a lot of that infrastructure to be actually built. I mean, the whole purpose of it is for people to save money, but the government doesn't want you to have them anyway. So,
look. The millennials have come up with they've grabbed this idea. It's a pretty good one. I got to give the millennial generation credit. We get on these guys a little bit saying they're babies and everything else like that, of which, some of the critique is correct. But I'm pretty impressed with a lot of these youngins. They kind of sharp, and they're right to press this. They're right to press that issue. With the way housing is, the way money is, they're right to put the system to the test. They're right about that. They are totally correct. Put this mug to the test. Because we want to live a certain way. We want to have this. Let's put these small houses up here. We want to get down with this since y'all are out here trying to make this game insane. Let's work it our way. I like it. These kids are not stupid. They're pretty smart. I'm impressed by them. So I'll leave it like that. These millennials, we give them a little bit of a hard time, but I think they are extremely sharp. A lot of them, very sharp. Press these guys to the limit. That's what I say. Press them. Press that ass. Press them.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Hit the like button if you're not already done so. Share the video if possible, and we'll be back later.